everyone. Michael J. Nelson here. This is 372 pages. We'll never get back. Connor Listoka is here as well. Connor, how are you?
Good. We've made a curious decision today to start our recording by tossing earworms back and forth to each other.
The book that we're currently working on certainly gives us the opportunity. Unfortunately, we have to wait for that. That comes kind of at the end of our reading, right?
It very much does. So
Yes.
it's going to be in our head for the duration. So if we lapse into the meter of the Muggle vibe,
No.
or the other ones you've shared, the witch's song from Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, where she grows Thumbelina.
Yes. Are you humming Beethoven's Grosse Fuge right now in your mind as well?
Yes, that's the one that stuck with me. Yes.
That's really
it's
the melody
Harry
is
Mann's
just so everyone goes out of the theater humming that. This is the podcast where we read and talk about bad books, and this is the first reading of a book called Renamed. The Legend of Rah and the Muggles, right? It was renamed.
It was by all accounts, renamed from just Rah.
Okay.
They added in the other words in a different font to capitalize and perhaps challenge J.K. Rowling for her ownership of the word Muggles.
And you will see over the course of this reading, boy, oh boy, the parallels are just, they start to stack up to a point where you're like, if I was on that jury, I don't know, man. This is shockingly close.
Start to note them, and there's more to come later, I suppose, more that are even crazier. So,
but yeah, so we just started the reading on that, so we're just wading in.
Yeah, we covered the lengthy trial and judgment rendered about it in the last episode. So that's very important stuff for the context of this whole thing. If you haven't listened to that, you definitely should go and listen to it. But we didn't touch on the content of the book other than just acknowledging that there were creatures called Muggles. And boy, oh boy, does it deliver on what the listener, Mark, who recommended to us, promised. It's even though they take their time getting to the Muggles, everything up to that point is also quite special. It goes in directions that very few children's books go. So that's...
part of doing this podcast is, like, as you say, like, we're suddenly phrases that you've never uttered in your life become things that are normal. But this also, why do all bad books share these weird similarities that there's no reason? This could be about anything. Mm-hmm. But somehow it had parallels to many books that we've read in the past. That was just like stunning to me. Like, how does that happen? How do they all go to the same place?
It's a collective hive mind. When they go to sleep at night, they tap into this neural network of bad book authors, and they're just like, talk about the characters' short, stubby fingers, or perhaps long fingers.
Yes.
Give the anthropomorphic animals weird names and have them talk funny.
I guess so, yeah. But that comes up a lot. So I don't know. Do you want to just dive in to the Legend of Rah and the Muggles?
I think we should, because it starts it starts very strong. It starts with an introduction that
yes.
You know, it's just hard. It's so hard to know, like, how many people picked this up. You know, you would sometimes my dad would go to the video store and come back with something that was like, why did you select this? And no one had ever seen it, and no one had ever heard of it. But then it was part of my life. If your parents came back from the bookstore with this copy of The Legend of the Rah and the Muggles, published by who was the name of the I don't know, but
the publisher,
the then bankrupt publisher, Crandom House or something. But if you picked it up and just started reading, you get hit with some major concepts and plot points right off the bat, and none of them are positive.
It would be funny, sitting down to read it, like you look at the cover. Again, a parent, you don't know. It's like when my mom made all the little kids, the little cousins, watch Die Hard, around Christmas back in the day.
Sure, she was on that.
She was
train
early
early.
to that. She was very early to it, but she said, like, I don't remember there being anything about it that the kids couldn't see.
My God,
what are you talking about?
Did she be like, you know what? It was Mr. Magoo's Christmas I was thinking of. That's the one that I meant us to.
But so you sit down with your children and you begin reading the Muggles and Rah, and you're just, this is going to be great. And
a crystal castle, a reflective lake.
Yeah, like, wow, this is going to be great. Diseases out of control, discord, unrest with the colonies, and then it gets worse from there.
Absent any real or decisive leadership, citizens gathered arms and formed militia groups. Most kids' books, wait until the third or fourth paragraph before the armed militias start forming. This one hits you fifth sentence.
They had lived a relatively peaceful coexistence until government representatives became restless and greedy. That was my note. Like, boy, you seen those clowns in Congress, how restless they're getting? The audience going, woo, yeah, they're restless.
What are they? Are they like trying? Are they thinking about getting a treadmill desk or something? They're like, I just can't stay seated all day. I'm like,
I have that leg disease, leg disease where I keep moving my leg. Restless leg syndrome. That's it. They became restless and greedy. They started out, they were great.
Sure,
I love these guys.
Even though they were part of a group that was called the Congress of United People, acronym COUP, coup. So. I don't know. Maybe you knew where that was going when you gave it that name, people.
The citizens committed for united, monetary. The scum, come on, guys. We didn't even notice that. I'm sorry.
It says to most of Aura's citizens, Aura is a land where this takes place, it appeared all of this unrest had occurred suddenly when it had actually taken years and years of corruption and political maneuvering to tear apart the very fibers of its constitutional charter. This charter made democracy possible for all nations and gave its citizens inalienable rights. It was masterfully written. It sounds like a real super constitution, Mike.
I wish you could see my note there. If I could just put it up there. Sounds like a big and powerful constitution. Perhaps a super constitution.
But yeah, it's not really, the Harry Potter kids looking in wonder as the snowflakes trickle and they walk down Diagon Alley to get a chocolate frog or whatever the hell they do right off the bat here.
Have a butter beer, you guys.
Yeah, clinking the glasses, talking about their brand new constitutional charter as the gunshots ring out down the street. How about this one? This seemingly simple erosion of morality gave rise to gross civil unrest and massive wars resulted. Aura's citizens suffered catastrophic hardships and losses. Da na 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 na.
Kids, should we switch over to the Book of Revelation, the 7-year tribulation?
Yeah, really?
Yeah, something cheerful.
Yeah, you want to read the recollections of the survivors of Darfur here? Like, I remember Dave Eggers wrote a book with a guy who had survived that. The one thing that sticks out as me is a guy named Dang ate rancid elephant meat as they were, death marching. They found an elephant that had died weeks earlier and he ate it and that kid died. So,
oh, God.
That's what happens here in Rah and the Muggles, probably.
Kids, all right, let's get to it. The Great 30-Year War would be recorded as the most vicious and evil in the history of mankind.
I mean, like we always say, like if you're setting something in the future, set it, 1,000 years just so no one who watches this will ever do it. If you're talking about wars, don't make it the worst ever. Like say it came close to be like, because the bar is so high. It's saying so much to say that.
Most vicious war. My God. So like, all right, mustard gas, World War I, right? Outlawed by all.
Sure.
So it was worse than that.
Yes.
So there was some blister agent they were using on each other. They were hacking limbs off. The most vicious and evil in the history of mankind.
Right.
I mean, think of the most evil thing you can and then just double it, I guess.
Yep. The death count from the camps in the Holocaust, it's worse than that.
The killing fields, they were fun compared to this. Kids.
And part of the reason, though, that it's that bad, I think, is because the coup arms treaty had boasted the elimination of nuclear weapons, but it was the reassembly and use of such weapons that brought this anguishing war to a sudden and devastating conclusion. So tons of nukes fall, and I guess that's why it is the worst in history, because we have one war with 2 nuclear bombs, and this one, tops that, blows it out of the water.
So it really, really does. And then, so then the whole Earth is poisoned, or whatever aura is, right? We don't really know. We have no clear picture of how widespread is this.
Sure, but to reiterate, we do learn that this is Earth. It is
mankind,
our planet, and this does take place in our lifetime, probably.
Yes. And speaking of super constitution, I mean, just like beaten, tired, and nearly starving, they deserted the ruins, leaving behind the imprisoned have-nots, the injured, and we're talking severe injuries, the disabled, again, severely disabled, the ethnically impure, the elderly, and other less fortunate human beings. So, ladies and gentlemen, ethnically impure are less fortunate human beings in the world of the Muggles. And
they got dealt a bad hand. That's what we could say. If your kid, you're reading this to them at bedtime and they say, "Mommy, what does ethnically impure mean?" Well, just not as lucky as the rest of us.
Wow. Okay.
And that is they do use the phrase right before that. They say the nuclear holocaust had blanketed the sky with dark, poisonous clouds of radiation. So a lot to unpack there to the 8-year-old you're reading this to at bedtime, I would say. Ethnically impure people, holocaust.
Beaten, tired, starving. No mercy shown to even the children.
Their cries went unrecognized as they rang out with piercing resound. That's a descriptive poetic sentence. Despair painted their tiny faces like a mask of terror.
Moans of anguish echoed in the air. Wow. So I was reading a book about World War I, that it turned into, of course, a giant mud pit. And then because the shell fragments would go in, and then it rained, and then the mud was like thick as it was worse than cement, and you would trap in it. But people would fall into these. The soldiers would slip off the planks that they set up, and they'd fall into those poison pits, and they were poisoned because of the shells that were hitting them. And then they would slowly die all night. And you were ordered by your commander, do not go in and save. And it would be like, John, man, I grew up with you. Please come and help me. This is worse than that.
Right, surely.
All night long it would last, and then the person would you'd hear the gurgles of mud as the poison and the mud overtook them, and then their friend died in the middle of the night. Worse than that in this book.
Boy, that guy gurgling to death sounds a lot less fortunate than me.
Yes.
As does. All right, here's another connection to our most recent book. They gathered to escape on the few remaining cruise ships. I guess the cruise ships that had not been nuked out of existence, where most of them had once enjoyed luxurious vacations with their family, going to money launder for the Cuban mafia, perhaps.
I assume that's the only reason I would get on a cruise ship, except for those buffets, huh? I can't wait.
But then they pull away, and like people are doing the Titanic, I have a child, and they're like, I don't know, that child looks pretty ethnically impure, and not letting him on. And then the ships just take off, and there's people falling off the sides. They cut the ropes and ladders, dropping the unlucky ones into the murky and stormy waters, never to be seen again.
Pushing, shoving, trampling one another like cattle to secure their place on a vessel. So I just wondered, okay, all of that, picturing the Titanic or whatever, and people swinging down, and like, please take me with you, and like pushing them down with your leg, like, die, impure one.
Yeah, don't like the look of your nose. You're not getting on board.
But then they're like, 400 yards offshore, and like, okay, we made that. We killed everyone. Hit that guy with an oar again, will you? Sure, okay. Then how do they go like, all right, we're all the halves. Third class cabin. Who's going down into the that place? Like, well, we've got a keg of beer, and a violin. We'll go down there. Like, how do they decide that? We're all right? We're all halves.
Yeah, but who has less? That's the real question here.
So.
Right? Yeah, once you're all ethnically pure, you got to find some way to differentiate people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Frank kind of makes this weird noise when he sips his tea that I don't care for. So
No, I don't. I did that once. Someone noted that.
give him a cup of tea. The whole ship goes silent as Frank prepares to take the biggest sip of his life.
Knocks his own teeth out with the cup. Get down to third class.
Down to third class, Frank.
I'm a dentist.
But right off the bat, just better than I could have hoped, It sounds weird, a weird thing to say about nuclear holocaust and putting in camps the ethnically impure. But for a book that, looks like this on the cover, it's better than I could have hoped.
Oh, and you'll all know, look, we're laughing. We're laughing at the scale of the book, obviously. We're not laughing at the contents thereof.
Sure. We're laughing at it's whatever, when we get the movies and the books like this, it's not the content, it's what these people try to do with their limited skill set, take it on. You could, the horrors of this type of thing have been written about by some of the most skilled voices of our time and won Pulitzer Prizes and still fail to convey the enormity of it. So I'm not really sure that the Legend of Rah and the Muggles is going to really throw its hat into the ring with, Knight or Ivan, whatever his last name is, Denosovich.
Ivan, a day in the life of. But she tries because she says it is hard to imagine that anyone left behind in Aura could survive, but they have. Against all odds, a primitive generation of human beings, the Muggles, who are descendants of the have-nots. Mm-hmm. So that's like an actual thing. It's not capitalized. It should be.
Right, but it was a class of people, I guess. Just yes. But a mix of injured, disabled, ethnically impure, the elderly, and other less fortunate human beings.
The untouchables.
So people who
in India,
less fortunate, like people who lost their money on the Hawk Tuah coin, or how less fortunate are we talking here?
There is a purple haze left behind by nuclear warfare.
Nice.
And this is where, I don't know, maybe this is cruel of me, but I thought, I don't know, maybe they were right to leave the Muggles behind. Muggles look much like human babies, but none of them have hair. Their shoulders are narrow and delicate. They have round, plump bellies, which make their legs and arms look very thin. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys stay behind and see how the purple haze works out for you?
It does seem like someone who is like, yeah, I bought an American Girl doll off of Temu, and here's what the picture looked like, and here's what they sent me, and it has this horrible, misshapen, prototype of the thing that they sent them. It's like, yeah, nobody needs that.
Yeah. Okay. So the Muggles live under the purple haze. Remember, this is just the intro to the book.
Yeah, and it's 500 years later. So this is, after they left on the cruise ships, this has happened. So they are sort of like a distinct species that has evolved. I guess there's no light. They have bluish skin because they aren't taking this stuff in. So they're like, Neanderthals or whatever. They're a completely separate thing by this point in time.
Soft, smooth skin, and their legs and round, plump bellies. I'm thinking the Timer the cheese mascot. Huh, everyone?
Wow, yes, 100%. Maybe not in a cowboy hat and pistol packing, but there's nothing Mike likes more than comparing people to Timer the cheese mascot. The mom from A Talking Cat, and now the Muggles.
It is true.
They also speak many different languages. I'm not sure how that happened. But I guess if you were calling people ethnically impure, maybe they were from some sort of language or culture you didn't like. But they also understand all other languages, even those of the animals. So they speak most languages, but they understand everything else. So we'll see how that comes into play.
Right.
And their average height is 3.5 feet. I think that's important to take into consideration because, based on what I've heard, that might be sort of amorphous throughout the rest of the book.
Okay. And then one of their things is they put everything down in a book, and then they teach their children from
the ancient book
of Tales, yes. And there's moral standards described in this historical book. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how historical they get. Do they tell the children, It was the most horrible war in the history of mankind. Go into detail. Well, you know blister agents? Of course I know blister agents. Well, they would go into the throats of the soldiers and they would choke on their own blood and die in front of their wives and children.
Yeah, they would laugh and pat their plump bellies, their plump blue bellies.
Their smooth, tiny legs.
The Ancient Book of Tales is also like, it gets into, I'm not clear if everything in there is written as poetry or not, but it does, some of it is, and it's quite unfortunate. But it also has this sentence, which was, I was like, this is some real stoned hippie nonsense right here. People, in the year of the purple haze, people had forgotten the power of love and sought power in place of love. All the Muggles snap in appreciation. There's a guy playing the bongos.
Yeah, I won't applaud, but I'll go, That's my response to that.
And then we got this poetry down. I mapped out the rhyme scheme. I think the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B, 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 C, C here. So down rivers and streams of time, quenching the thirst of mankind, bathing your soul from time to time, healing the sick and mending the blind. For within your heart, not your mind, is where all love is truly defined, and its symphony plays on and on, long, long after we have gone. Maybe, I don't know. Time rhymes with time, but then blind mind defined. Anyway, it's not good, and we get more of it.
You don't think that Eminem could spit that at some...
Let's reach out.
Okay. We haven't yet. We have
popular rapper to guest on podcast.
Yes. All right, so that's the intro. Mayhem and death beyond anything that the human mind can comprehend.
Yeah, it did say worse than every war. It didn't say all wars combined, so at least it wasn't that hyperbolic.
Most vicious and evil in the history of mankind. Setting ourselves up to make ourselves laugh over those.
Well, because then it's, they move on to essentially, a Disney princess here in chapter 1, The House of Sheridan.
It is like did you mention the road? Did you say that when you were talking about, but that's what you assume, like, two lonely figures going down, with charred cars and houses and skeletons like hanging over things, and
faces streaked with ash, and a shotgun in their back pocket.
That's what you assume, but instead, Lady Catherine
and her family's palatial estate,
the House of Sheridan, which is what Le Maison d'Or.
Yeah,
the House of Gold,
which has hand forged hinges. And servants and a refuge for all the people that have been touched by this war, which is still ongoing, I guess. Because
it's unclear where this comes in the history of the war. For me, it was. Was this supposed to be the 30-year war?
It's very unclear because it's unclear here. But then what happens that the Muggles are 500 years later. So
it is. Yeah, it's just another war.
Correct, I guess so. Yeah,
it turns out it's another war.
Yeah, you don't get the sense that they were like, this is the war to end all wars. They were like, this is taking society back to purely feral days. Like, there's going to be wars for all time now.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to imagine, like, this is kind of Narnia. Like, hey, the kids got to get out of town. It's kind of charming. Like, it was not charming at all for anyone to send their children away to the country while they got bombed by the Nazis. But that's what they're trying to convey is like, oh, we live at this nice home. Everything's nice. We have tons of food. It's all wonderful.
Yeah. Constant gunfire can be heard through the stained glass windows. And it's also not wonderful because Princess Catherine, a.k.a. Cat, they emphasize that's a nickname for her. It says that she was only 3 years old when her parents died of influenza. Mm-hmm. So dead parents right off the bat, that's more grist for the plagiarism mill. But also, I just thought, like, it is fantasy. You could say, like, that her parents died of witch's palsy or, bog illness or something like that. He doesn't have to be like, yeah, the flu's still around too. We never eradicated that. Things are bad.
Yeah, I remember 1917 flu. Yeah, this took everyone, and so then they looked up, I guess, at the horrible poisonous purple cloud, and were like, this is probably for the best anyway. Coughed their last and died. Yeah. Cat, you're in charge now.
Why did we have a kid in this society? We did her such an injustice, bringing her into this hellscape of a world. There was also, so they start throwing characters at us. We have Gwenny, her nanny. Yeah. She's also pregnant with twins. She's married to Sir Geoffrey Luttrell.
Although I just want to point out that I hate when books aren't clear like this, when authors... Gwenny had served as Kat's nanny until her marriage to Sir Geoffrey Luttrell.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
So Gwenny's married to Sir Geoffrey? She's the subject of the sentence, right?
True. That's, wow.
She served until she got married to this guy. So I'm like, okay, so Gwenny married this Sir. Good for her.
She also
upped her station, became more desirable. She could probably get on that second deck on one of them ships.
Gwenny is also still Kat's nanny. She served until her marriage, and then she continued to serve.
Yes.
There's no finality there. I also had to look up the spelling of Geophrey, because I was inclined to say, this was like a George R.R. Martin-y, take a normal name and make it weird. It appears to be a normal name and common in Tanzania. So,
okay.
And I found one guy, I thought you would appreciate this, a guy named Geoffrey, whose LinkedIn bio starts, as a senior solutions engineering leader at Splunk. I lead a global team of specialists. So if you're the Jeffrey who works at Splunk leading a team of global specialists, please reach out and contact us, because we'd love to know what the company Splunk does.
I was in a group with some guys. This guy was a kind of a drop into this group, and he had a name tag on, and it was Geoff, I guess.
Yep.
And so I was like, "Hey, Jeff," and he's like, It is Joff."
Oh my God.
Nice guy. I'm not. It was like, okay, but I always had to remember that. Really?
Yeah.
I think that's just a spelling of Jeff, but okay, Joff it is.
Oh boy. Well, so it goes on to describe Gwenny, who is silver white hair, neatly framed, her plain but attractive face. I'm not sure how that works. And then Sir Geoffrey, commander of the nation's largest infantry, had left Walter Randolph Winfred Charrington, the palace butler, in charge of Le Maison d'Or. So even if Geoffrey was not a dumb fantasy name, she then hits us with Walter Randolph Winfred Charrington, leaving no doubt that we have some dumb fantasy names here.
Who becomes a big character.
The palace butler, yes.
Yeah. They talk about something that hadn't been used since the 18th century until now.
Okay.
So, all right, we're going by centuries. So, where are we? Is this Earth? In the future, did Earth get destroyed? The 18th century of what? And how long is a century in their world, in the Muggles world?
Right, off the bat, because it says the Muggles live in Aura, A-U-R-A. That's their country. It is, and it does appear to be on Earth, because we do get hit with things that are Earthbound here before. Things that only have existed on Earth. Very specific works of music and language and stuff like that.
That's coming up. Very funny. And they do say mankind. And then the Muggles, so the Muggles are men.
Well, descended from them. I think that the nuclear fallout probably involved some sort of mutation that caused them to split off. I do not think they are the same species at this point in time.
Oh, they've become a new species?
I think that's why they're called Muggles. I don't think that's their society name. She doesn't provide any DNA analysis, but that's what I am led to believe happened. Who knows? Can Muggles breed with a Homo sapien? It's probably been explored in fan fiction, but it's not clarified, at least in the first 4 chapters of the book.
Okay, let me ask you this then. If the cruise ship sort of went, should we circle back? Just see, we've got some extra rooms now that a bunch of us died of influenza. Should we just circle back and see how it's going back on shore? And then if they pulled up and they saw the Muggles, would they be like, all right, let's just keep going here.
Yeah,
or would they go, you can go, there's, we need people to fire the steam engines, so you could go down there.
I think they would be like, you know how we were doing skeet shooting off the bow? Like, we'll take aim at those horrible freaks.
Okay.
I haven't
just
sent
gun it out of the harbor.
I haven't sent you the hard copy yet, but you have seen pictures of the illustrations in the book, right?
I did, yes.
Okay, so you would not see those 3.5 foot tall freaks and not think that it was your sworn duty as a species to wipe them off the face of the earth.
Yes. Now, Walter Randolph Winfred Charrington.
Yes, the palace butler.
The palace butler in charge of Le Mans. Youthful, chiseled features. Nice. I just want to point it out because this comes up quite a bit. Dark, peppered gray hair. So that sort of perfect, like, doctor. What's the guy on one of those like medical shows? Like,
yeah, or Hugh Grant probably. Like, that type of silver foxy.
Yeah, piercing blue-gray eyes. He mesmerized guests he greeted at the door. Is that how that works? Like the butler, like, welcome to Le Maison d'Or.
It is no. Must tip butler.
Yes. But he soft, deep voice. Welcome to Le Maison d'Or. Mm-hmm. And they're all just like mesmerized. So that's him. Just want to point him out because he becomes a character.
Yeah, he's only 4 years older than Lady Catherine as well, and had assumed the position of butler following his father's death. So butlering in this society is sort of like a newspaper comic strip. The only other hereditary passed down job. Bill Keane dies, his son gets to take over family circus.
Who's the action book guy, like
Cussler?
Clive Cussler, right?
Yeah.
His son just writes him, but they're still called like Clive Cussler books. Okay.
I guess that is the other art form that does that.
Yes.
I just was amused that they're sort of stocking a bomb shelter because they do think that there is a chance they have to hide there. They stock it with racks and racks of bottled water. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was imagining, this is a butler, a house palace, but I guess they're just loading it up with Deer Park from Sam's Club or something.
That's what I wondered. Like 12-foot high shelves lined the center of the library. Canned vegetables, eating and cooking utensils, linens, blankets. I was around for Y2K. Oh, dried meat hung from every hooks in the ceiling in a hidden ironstone rock room. So, yeah, Y2K is like, my friends and I used to jokingly send survivalist sites like, hey, you want to go in half on a number 10 can of meat? Like, what's in it? I don't know. It's just a can of meat.
Hope we never find out.
So I guess they're just ordering from that, one of those catalogs where like it's sort of mimeographed and stapled together. Like
that's true. That's probably what they call a grocery store in this era, just based on the nuclear holocaust that have happened left and right.
Canned vegetables. Are they still using lead? So when they open them up, will they be like those expeditions to the North Pole?
What happened with those?
They would use lead for the cans, and then they would find out everyone went mad, killed each other, whatever.
Oh man, expeditions, it used to be just like par for the course. It would either be the lead or be the mercury, being like, right. Hey, it looks like, hey, Lewis, looks like Clark's developed a cold. Give him some more mercury. Have him snort a line of mercury. That'll clear everything up.
This wine's kind of sour. Put some lead in it to sweeten it up.
We also get introduced to Charlie the groundskeeper.
Yes.
Impossible not to imagine groundskeeper Willie. It says Walter would not cause Lady Catherine the embarrassment of having the groundskeeper enter her private room, not an hour for any reason. So it's like, hey, this must be a really gross dude. Really low tier steerage class person here.
We've had Charlies in our fiction before, have we not?
Boy, have we. There were two Charlie E's in Antigua, right? Charlie the octopus?
Yes.
I certainly was reminded of him later in the book.
Walter creeps into Kat's room, by the way, and speaks French to her. So
yes,
that's odd.
That.
So
not
France
only
exists apparently.
Right, but this not only goes against what I was thinking of this book not being on Earth, but it flies in the face of everything we know about butlers. Butlers are, distinguished British gentlemen, right?
Yeah, butlers are, I mean, come on. Butlers are Jeeves, and that's pretty much it.
Maids are French. That's what we,
Yes.
So,
yeah, I don't know what's going on there. So crossing the streams there, but Kat had gotten the letter, and Kat cried and cried until she fell soundly asleep in Walter's arms. All right, Walter, settle down here, man.
Yeah, she cried because she got a letter saying that her husband, Sir Geoffrey, is dead.
Yes.
So Walter sees his opportunity here.
I mean, of course she's going to cry. Of course she's sad, but she can't be surprised by this. I mean, this is a world where everyone she's known has died.
Yeah.
There are poisonous purple clouds hanging over the entire landscape.
Right. Maybe going off to serve in the United Forces is like you have a better chance of surviving than just day-to-day life in this world. Who knows?
Could be.
Jeez. And again, they've looked at this and they've chosen to bring twins into this hellscape instead of just you're going to put a gun in their bassinet in case they need to take the easy way out when the purple haze turns even more sinister. But so she's upset about this, and then she, of course, goes into labor. Gwenny, what did it say? She was her maid until her marriage.
Yes,
she's still her maid. She's going to be delivering the babies here. She didn't need how-to instructions. She had helped deliver a few babies in her village. And Walter's outside here, and, it says he's pacing back and forth, and every time he heard Kat scream, he jumped or gnawed on his fingernails frantically. So he's a full-on Warner Brothers cartoon character doing the typewriter on his fingernails, spitting it out, putting a big pile of them down at his feet.
And then I have it's probably not, there's some video. I realize this is mostly a podcast, but I have a challenge for you.
Okay.
And I'll describe it to everyone as it goes on. Just as quickly as Walter had felt joy in the birth of the twins, his smiling face saddened with the thought of Sir Gregory's death. So if you could just do that, and then I'll give you a score on that.
Okay.
So smiling at the twins, and then just as suddenly thinking about Sir Geoffrey. All right. Here we go. He looks really happy. Oh, God, it turns to despair very quickly.
I just see Sir Geoffrey's face in one of those twins, and it made me so unhappy to realize that, remembering his death, which I had not been thinking about at all.
Right. You were chewing your fingernails. What, I'm sorry, what is it gave how he died. Inform you of the death of your husband. He served the nation bravely, and we share in his grief. That was it.
Oh.
That's like, he took a shell fragment to the face, blew off half of his skull.
Right. Yeah. His men turned on him when they were, deprived of food and water for 5 days. And
you familiar with the word frag? He was fragged.
They did eat what was left on his emaciated skeleton.
Why did you tell me that? My lady cat, how can I help you?
So Walter's definitely into her. He's so happy for the twins, but there is a war rapidly approaching, and as any person in her ivory tower situation would suggest, Lady Catherine gives instructions for a feast to be prepared, fit for a king, to honor the staff and serve it in the main dining room, which leads us to this delightful 1-2 sentence back to back. Lady Catherine arrived at the dining room just after 7. She was dressed in a twilight blue silk gown beneath a floor-length robe painted with a blooming pink roses and white flowered dogwood branches belted loosely at the waist with braided gold ropes. And then it talks about Walter 2 sentences later. Walter had never eaten at the same table with either the staff or with the family, but tonight formality was being tossed aside, and it felt comfortable. Oh, is that what she's doing? Is that why she put that gown on that took 8 servants to get her into? Because formality is being tossed aside at this affair. Okay. That's why the gold-baited robe is only belting it loosely.
Yes. We're not standing on ceremony here.
Yeah, we've only set out 7 forks at each place setting.
Yeah, they're name cards and everything. Yeah. But this is, again, here's... At first, that first thing that I read about Walter, I'm like, all right, maybe this is just, I don't know, my imagination.
No, he knows better than to swoop in on the newly widowed new mother.
She just gave birth. Anyway, as he gently slid her chair back toward the table, he could smell the oil of lilac she must have dabbed through her hair and on her neck. Walter, no! No, Walter! You're the butler!
Sensing him close behind her, she reached behind her head and guided his towards hers. She turned her head to meet his ear. He could feel her breath with every word she whispered. Walter, please!
Walter!
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forget myself, madame. Sorry. Pardon-moi.
I mean, yes, you have to imagine the conditions that she has given birth in the deep despair of losing her husband are not modern. You know, she was probably still in quite a bit of pain. Who knows what's happening? And Walter's like, it says that smell on her. That's, who knows what the bathing situation here, but that lilac really covers up a lot of...
How did that episiotomy go, madame?
Oh, Walter. And they have the whole banquet, and then essentially she's like, "Would you escort me back up to the ballroom for the after dinner drinks?" And he says, "This I would like as a sonic challenge to you."
Oh, okay, good.
They invite her in, and she's like, "Oh, sir, like, are you coming in? Are you handsome or wicked?" Here he swung her around in front of him and looked right into her eyes. "Either way, madam, I win, and that is what is important to me at a time like this," he said in a sassy manner. So Walter the butler, who speaks French, is saying, "Either way, madam, I win, and that is what is important to a man at a time like this," in a sassy manner.
Okay. Swung her around in front of me. I'm looking right into her eyes. Okay, the twins are just off. I'm looking, they both got a load. I got to get to that in a second. But okay. Either way, madam, I win. And this is what is important to a man at a time like this. Yeah.
Sassy. The first thing that tipped me off that it was, other than the French, was that there are beautiful hand-loomed Persian rugs of different patterns in this room that they're in now. Mm-hmm. So they went to the Persian rug place that is constantly having a 50% off sale out in the local strip mall. Got them there.
I think someone in my family, a younger person, said, "I think we want to buy one of those Oriental rugs. There's a place off the freeway that has a sale."
You don't say.
Oh, no, really? Wow.
Is it a limited time only deal?
I guess so. But how handsome is this dude? Wait. I have one before that.
Okay.
Because they play music.
Oh, yeah.
The room was suddenly filled with heavenly sounds from the 200-year-old instrument. So the harp is 200 years old.
Okay.
In whatever time this is, the hinges are from the 18th century.
Oh, the hinges of the doors, you mean?
Yeah, isn't there? There's
right. Yeah, something was from the 18th century. You pointed that out.
Okay. Audrey soon joined her daughter at the piano, and Charlie shocked everyone. This is shocking.
The groundskeeper.
He's caked in his own. He's caked in manure, and he shocked everyone when we picked up the violin and led the two women in an impromptu rendition of Pachelbel Canon D. So Johann Pachelbel exists in this world.
And persists, too. He has persisted perhaps 500 years post-nuclear Holocaust.
I mean, this is the timeline of like Waterworld, right? Where you're like, wait a minute. He evolved gills? Like, how long in the future are we? He's drinking his own pee? What? How long is this? But the cigarettes haven't run out? What is the timeline here? That's what I'm trying to wonder with Johann Pachelbel still being like, he's as popular as ever.
Right.
Okay.
Basic people still walk down the aisle to him at a wedding. And I was like, so it's impressive of Charlie, but also like, so did Charlie take, violin lessons for 6 weeks, and this is what they learned for his, to screech through it at his recital? But so let's just go back. The harp that Kat was playing is a 200-year-old instrument.
Yes.
If the Muggles are 500 years, so that was made 300 years into this war, or the.
I guess.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
300
what I'm
years
trying
into post-nuclear Holocaust.
I guess.
I feel like the harpist might be one of the first people that they're like, you know what? We need you to go out there and shoot a deer. Like we can't have you making bespoke stringed instruments anymore. There just isn't a market for it. It's not the best use of our society's time.
You're 18 months into making this harp, and you're not even done yet. Come on, man.
You have a price tag that is $12,000 on it. No one currency ceases to exist in our society. We barter for skunk tails. That's what we subsist on.
I was very excited because I thought at first, I was like, oh, they're calling the harp a 200-year-old instrument. And then I could peg, but it's like not the harp as a general thing, but this particular harp is 200. Right. Like, damn it. I thought I had this pegged because I know when the harp was invented. I didn't. It was wrong.
Well, it is good that Pachelbel proves to be timeless, even in this world and all the unfortunate stuff that has happened.
I'm happy. This was the question I wanted to ask. Why, you really are a handsome devil, aren't you, sir? She said as she rested her one hand on his shoulder. And how handsome is this guy? Like, what is happening? He's mesmerizing guests. She constantly calling him handsome.
Yeah.
Like, repeatedly.
It really does speak poorly of Sir Joffrey's judgment, because it sounds like they've entered into a Tiger Woods situation. Like, don't hire the hot nanny. Bad idea. Like
we have so many friends where like I got to go home and pick up the nanny. Like, what's she like? She's so hot. Like, God, what?
God, yeah, yeah. You've hired the most handsome butler in all this land. Like, you got to make Charlie the butler. Like one strap of his overalls is broken. Caked in the filth. Like, hasn't washed his hair in 3 days. He looks like Neil Hamburger or something. Like, that's what you got to do.
He's like spitting on his hand and combing his hair over because the guests are coming. Like, whoa. But instead, Sir Joffrey saw this as like guests pull up, in their Duesenbergs and like get out, and then they all walk up to the butler and they're like, ooh, and fainting. He's like, maybe I'll just delay the war just a little bit and see what's going on at home here.
Yeah, hey, Joffrey, you just I noticed you just mesmerized the Duke of Wallace and his Countess. Like, could you not do that? Like, it just really sucks having people show up and then they're just mesmerized for our entire dinner party. It sort of kills the vibe here, man.
My hair is naturally salt and peppered, sir. I cannot help it.
Very well. You did nothing wrong. That's wow. I'm just lost in your eyes there. What was I even talking about? There's another sort of thing here. I'll give this one an ASMR reading because this is Walter, who they're dancing, I guess, to the Charlie's Canon D. Walter drew her even closer to him, bending his head down beside hers until his lips nearly touched her ear. Madam, it is not I who is the wicked one in this room. Maybe he pronounced it like the wicked one, like John Travolta.
Wickedly talented.
But here is the one that I have for you, and I'm glad I got to it first. This is a sentence that she says, Lady Cat, sir, there is no woman in this room, and you've performed Shakespeare more than I have. I only did it once in 6th grade, so it doesn't count. You have performed Macbeth and all these things. This is a line that she says with a poor attempt at a Shakespearean delivery that causes them both to laugh.
Okay, yes. Okay. Hopefully when I have performed, I try to do a good Shakespearean delivery. I will try
this makes it
a poor attempt at a Shakespearean delivery.
Yeah, think community theater auditions or something.
Sir, there is no woman in this room that wouldn't trade dance partners with me right now. I'm not about to give them the chance. If that makes me wicked, so be it. That was pretty poor.
That was very poor.
We had a guy, by the way. It's a one-line part. A guy comes on and he said, the Macbeth says to his servant, like, "Hey, did you get the guys who were going to kill, these cutthroats? Did you get the cutthroats?" And he goes, his line is, "They are, my lord, without the palace gate." Okay. They're standing right outside the palace gate.
Okay.
Could not get this guy to not say, basically they forgot to bring the palace gate. It's like, no, they're not bringing a gate.
They are, but
They're
without the palace gate.
Without the palace gate, so kind of screwed if we want a palace gate. And the director like wouldn't give the guy a read. Like, no, we're not saying that. I'm like, would you just tell him how to read the line?
Yeah,
It's one line. Never give actors a read. Like, in this case, it's fine. The guy doesn't care.
I think that is what 100% what our 6th grade production of Julius Caesar was. It was just, a teacher who's like, every 6th grade class does Shakespeare, and you just get people doing these things that words they did not understand, but like, trying to make their best of, the context of them. It might as well have been in a different language.
Just give them the line reading. This is not a professional company. Who cares?
So they're dancing. And then it says, Walter had thought he felt the floor trembling a few times while he and Lady Catherine were dancing, but ignored it. But now the rumbling was unmistakable and everyone in the room felt it. So the horny idiot was just ignoring the sound of approaching war just because he's getting his first chance to whisper in his ear and smell her lilac perfume.
I couldn't help think of Casablanca here. Like, if Humphrey Bogart was just like, I don't know what that sound is, but let's keep drinking French wine and making out. Huh, kid? Like, no, even he's like, yeah, they're getting closer.
Yeah. And so Walter has to, grab the twins under each arm and run because they heard the sound of approaching soldiers. So it's like, you know what? Next time we hear the soldiers are coming, maybe let's forego the banquet, and maybe just take to the bomb shelter in the first place. If we have fancy food, let's eat it down there instead of the cans of 10-pound drum of green beans.
Is the dinner ready yet? It is ready, but the name cards aren't quite spelled out in silver lettering. Could we just forego that because
delay everything?
So they go to the bomb shelter.
Yes,
which was well stocked with bottled water from the 18th, for the 200-year-old harp to the bottled water.
Hopefully it's not those like, the ones where they've taken so much plastic out of the bottle that it's just as crinkly as those old sun chip bags. Like, that would really, people are sort of down there going mad as the bombs fall, and then just someone is constantly taking the cap off his water bottle and taking a big crinkly sip of it, and that's what causes people to snap.
You're like, I'm trying to do bad Shakespeare over here. Please stop crinkling your bottle.
But the bombing thundered above them for 3 days and nights and then stopped, but then guns could still be heard firing sporadically throughout the 4th day and night. And then one day after all this happens, Lady Catherine makes a sort of suspicious request that says, hey, Gwenny, Walter, you've been watching after the boys, but I would like them to stay with me all day. You two make yourself scarce.
So this is all a setup because she had asked... This cracked me up. She had asked Charlie to build a raft for her about a month before the twins were born. He had never asked her why or for what purpose. He built it willingly without any questions asked. How do you build a raft without knowing, like, is this for, is like a Twain thing? Are you going to be sticking down the river? Like,
do you have
how big are we talking?
A fox and a chicken and a sack of corn that you're trying to transport back and forth? Is that what's going on here? Or like you're going to go tubing? Is that where, once this all has worked itself out?
Does it need to be seaworthy? You know what? No questions. I'm just going to build a raft. Should there be a covering? Does it have to be weather? I'm sorry. Why am I getting into the weeds here?
Look, I'm going to give you one instruction. Hide it by the water's edge. No further details.
Okay.
And his interpretation there is he tied the raft at the water's edge and camouflaged it with giant lily pads. Which is, just, hey, tip your hat. That's not something I would have thought to do. Giant lily pads. I probably would have thrown a tarp over it.
Kids are going to come down here and drink beer anyway. That's fine. Just cover it with giant lily pads.
Lily pads... I guess frogs might have mutated since the nuclear fallout, so I guess lily pads, by that extension, are going to be bigger to accommodate them sitting on it and playing their little frog banjo. So no more questions. I've got it covered.
You're mighty pregnant. Are you sure you want to watch me camouflage it with giant lily pads? Fine. No questions. I'm sorry. Again, that was a question.
I will make my way down to the secret stream in our bomb shelter. Yes, I will do that despite being 8.5 months pregnant. And then essentially what she's doing is she's going to sneak her two twin sons out because it says she knew what high levels of radiation would do to the twins' tiny bodies, and she was not going to allow this to happen. So I guess the bombs that were falling were nuclear bombs. They were atomic bombs. And she's worried.
Well, I wasn't clear on whether that was still part of the purple cloud from the 30 Years War, which, as you recall, was a pretty bad war.
Yeah, many are saying it's a top 10 war of all time.
It could be.
Beats the hell out of the War of 1812. Or the purple cloud might only be above the Muggles' world of Aura. Then that's why they have no sun and have blue skin and no hair. I'm just suggesting that. There could be a purple cloud.
I know that's what she means, but since she didn't say it, I refuse to accept it as fact until. But that's fine. Okay.
But so again, she's having these twins, and maybe she didn't have an eye. The threat of high levels of radiation on their twins' tiny bodies is probably, hopefully, not something that she's just realized now. So this plan is either something she's had in mind the whole time, which is sketchy. Putting these twins on this raft, or it's something that she just came up with now because it only now occurred to her that this was no conditions to raise children in.
So yeah, this is harrowing. Like sending obviously there's biblical parallels here and everything, but so you're thinking about all of this and sending twins off on a raft that Charlie built with no instruction whatsoever. He asked no questions.
Yeah.
So did he do like one of those like Survivor Man things where he tried to, wrap twine around it, and he probably used some of those crinkly water bottles to like give it a little bit of buoyancy? It's not going to last. He's not even going to be able to go halfway across the lake before he sinks. But anyway, all of that is in my mind. So what would it take to make me to pull me out of this? Almost nothing that I can think of except the bayberry shrubbery thorns dug into the delicate skin of her hands as she frantically pulled and tore the overgrowth away from the passageway opening. Oh, God. I don't even remember the nuclear war anymore. This sounds horrible.
Bayberry shrubbery, which I guess was, growing just fine down in this underground dungeon that they've established for themselves.
I guess. Deeply embedded, painful, bloodied hands.
I would like to point out that when I was describing this to Laura, and I said she's putting her twins on the raft, and she said, "Oh, did she steal that from someone?" I was like, "Yeah, that's what happened to Moses." She's like, "No, I was thinking of something else." And then she revealed that she was thinking that's how they discovered the baby in Willow. It washes up on shore. That is the pig girl in Shadow Moon is that. So another connection to the podcast.
Willow, yes, yeah. Nice.
And she is getting ready to send them down the river, and she gives them a glass box full of jewels that she's locked up with a solid gold lock and written a letter inside. That she's the sole possession, I think, that she's shipping them down, other than like the blanket she covers them with for comfort.
It was at this point that I'm thinking, she watches it go for 10 yards before it capsizes and her children's drown.
Charlie's back there sort of whistling and backing out the door like,
He's already locked the tunnel, the secret entrance to the tunnel.
"You knew what this was, woman. I can't even skin a mule. You asked me to build a raft for the wee barons.
I'm still covered with me own filth. You knew that." So she watches them go and puts the box on it. Kiss their cherub-like cheeks, and then turns away. And she turns. They're floating away, and when she can't bear to watch any longer, she turns back, and down there, Walter is standing there, ready to hug her, instead of being like, "What the hell? Those are the only two children that survived." And Walter was sleeping when she left, so he's got like the goo in the corner of his eyes, but still like, God, that guy looks like so. I swear to God, I would leave my wife today if Walter was standing there with outstretched arms.
Oh, that's what he chooses to reveal, that he and Charlie are running off together. But what I was thinking at this point is like, get to the damn Muggles. This is This is it was a very long, I think this was probably half the reading this time around, was this setup of Lady Catherine and her society here. So we do move on to chapter 2, The Light, now.
Yes. All right, chapter 2. So the babies are drifting off. They go into the ocean, rocked to sleep by the rhythmic motion, soothing sound of the waves.
I guess you were wrong. Charlie's raft held up pretty well as they drift out into the ocean.
That's what I meant. It's ocean worthy. So that's good. The boys spent many days on the water. They slept through the first 8 days. The morning of the 9th day, they were awakened by gentle whispering voices. Now, I know this is fantasy, but we have Pachelbel. We have Johann Pachelbel. So do the rules of needing water apply or not?
Well, it's everywhere. Well, wait, there's not a dog to drink. Sorry, that's... yeah, I don't know. They don't even say, like, the glass box that she put the crystals in there gave them a magic protection, or the quilt was blessed by, Gaburu the healer or something. So
yeah, they don't even whiz into a little tube and then pump it and drink it like at the beginning of Waterworld. I mean, come on. They just are out for 8 days.
Yeah, I mean, and she's probably just like, oh, so now you start sleeping through the night. No.
But at least she and Walter are like back home. All right.
They are then awoken on the 9th day by Natty and Nettie from the Sea of Nebula, spooners from the deep, sent here especially from you. And I just thought, okay, now here we go. This is where it starts to get pretty Ellis-y, I would say.
So Ellis-y. This is like shocking how close this is, isn't it? Were they mermaids in that one? Or
yeah,
a mermaid?
Mermaids.
No, it was a school of mermaids, right?
Yes. Yeah, and that's where the evil octopus came. I think there was, Triton the Sea King, essentially, like that too. But then, I imagine little seahorses and stuff were part of that universe too.
Natty and Nettie. Okay, there's some implication there. Did you have any idea who Natty and Nettie were until they described who they were?
From the Sea of Nebula? No, I didn't really think to...
Like male or female?
No, or like what they looked like. I didn't, and I assume this might be the only thing we get of them, but they do come back.
Okay. Anyway, Natty and Nettie
They're misty young girls, it does say.
They are misty young girls, Nettie. Hey, Nettie. Boy, you are misty. With their bellies full again, they feed the boys. The boys fell fast asleep until the morning of the 11th day, when out of the blue ocean water arrived a very large sea cow. So we'll get to that. But what was in the blue crystal bottle?
Again,
why don't you just
or something?
Yeah, why don't you just hand wave that away? Why do you have to, magical elixir that fixes, severe dehydration or something?
Yeah, cured their sunburn, also their sea madness.
Right. Salt water, when it gets in your lungs, right? Like salt water drives you mad and you have hallucinations and stuff. It cured all of that because it's a magical blue crystal bottle.
I also enjoyed that they just described, they just went with sea cow. They didn't even say manatee. They just used the other one there. And the sea cow is named Benjamin, and I believe we're supposed to believe that he sort of speaks with a stutter here, because that's how it is written. Bit Benjamin here. And that's how he talks about through the entire thing, and it's deeply annoying. Also deeply annoying, Natty and Nettie said, drink, little babbies. And I was like, okay,
God.
Well, they inserted an H into babies here. That's a mistake. But then Benjamin starts saying it too. It's the babbies Natty and Nettie were talking about, he stuttered to himself.
I wondered, just by, like, the stuttering, first of all, that is annoying to read. Just mention that he has a stutter and we can work it out ourselves.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like when someone tries to write, like, dialogue. He had a thick southern accent, and then you're, like, reading it like, yeah, I can just imagine that he probably, you don't need to, like, write it out. Like, I sure enough be thinking that, you're like, okay, yeah, that's right. Fine. You don't need
Stephen King can sometimes lapse into that as well, being like...
Yeah. The stutter was annoying as hell. But also, isn't like you stutter, like you're in trouble for having a stutter, aren't you?
As your character?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you don't get a ton of them these days. Porky Pig was sort of the last one that was in the mainstream, I would say.
But I sent you a thing. I remember it's an early Jim Gaffigan bit about the sea cow. Instead of calling him, what is it, a manatee? Which I went, by the way, went to Florida and went manatee sighting, right? Mm-hmm. Where you just kind of go around and you see them and like, there's the manatee. It's under you'll see it right there. They're very shy. And you'll see it come to the surface. It looks like a potato. Like, what? How much should we pay for this? To see a potato come out of the water. Like, great. Yeah, manatees are everywhere. But there's a Jim Gaffigan bit where he does, like, he mouths a sea cow, like, I am a manatee. Like, you're a fat, lazy sea cow. But the voice of it, I couldn't get it out of my head because he does, I'm the manatee.
Well, so maybe that's what she was going for here. That was probably a similar time frame of these, depending on when she actually wrote this book.
Yes.
Then Benjamin the manatee is met by Buddy the barracuda. Which is where I started to hope that Charlie the octopus was going to show up. But Benjamin Barracuda, he's got a little bit of an attitude. He sort of speaks like I imagined a Flintstone sort of New York voiced cartoon character. Like, yo, Benjamin, what do you got there? What are you towing there, Benjamin?
And then insults him. And he's a manatee. Again, maybe this is where the Jim Gaffigan things come. Yo, Benjamin, you got to lose a few pounds, boy. I nearly busted a fin tugging your lard. Buddy said, out of breath. Buddy, I don't know.
And then he has helped tow the raft that Benjamin was towing because they're determined to protect the babbies. But then Portia the porpoise shows up, and Buddy is like, nah, just what I need. Portia butting in. As he said, as he spit water up and into the air with his mouth. Like, I need this nosy porpotta busybody asking me so many questions. Just makes me want to puke. And to which, hey, I'm puking here.
Hey, if I had a hand, I'd bite my thumb at you. Wow.
He said in a poor attempt at Shakespearean. But then, so nosy porpotta I was questioned about. And the first thing that comes up when you Google that, the only thing really, is the profile of Molivia Porpotta, a Greek artist based in Athens who specializes in illustrations, paintings, sketches, and installations. No word if she works at, was it Sprunk? Was that the
Splunk?
Splunk. Maybe Splunk needs some lobby art or something that Porpotta could help them with.
I forgot to look that up. Porpotta?
Porpotta, a division of Splunk.
Is that a thing?
It's not a term for porpoise. It is this artist's name, however.
Okay. Also, I was annoyed by the spelling of. You call it Portia.
Oh, sure.
Just to be annoying, I would say it's Porchia.
Porchia, Chichia, as Benjamin would say it.
Yeah,
not even
because
attempting
she's
to
not
mimic the commercial.
Not spelling Portia like the Portia of Shakespeare that was mentioned earlier. We have Pachelbel. Why can't we have Portia spelled correctly? But
it is too bad that all the culture they mention is from 3, if not 400 years from now, and we didn't get a mention of whatever the 80s hit was when this was coming out. Being like, yes. He launched into Corey's Heart hit single. I wear my sunglasses at night. And then the sea animals have been calling these people, and the nymphs or whatever have been calling them babbies. But then the narrator just says Benjamin swam right next to the raft and kept a close watch over the babbies until nearly sunset. So the narrator just lapses right into it, like a study abroad student who comes back speaking the accent of wherever she was.
But then later they're babies again, right?
Yes.
So babbies is just a thing that the sea creatures call them.
Yeah, the Muggles do not.
The Muggles do not, but neither does the narrator later after lapsing into it once. So,
Portia says, I asked the ocean cherubs if they could bring their bows and arrows and help you to protect Natty and Nettie's babbies. So the ocean cherubs are a off-camera group that we haven't met yet. And she says they didn't know what babbies were until I explained it to them. And I imagine the ocean cherubs just staring at him like Peter's neighbor in Office Space when he asks if anyone uses a Case of the Mondays at his work site. Just like, babbies?
No,
No.
man.
No, we're not going to come help you with our bows and arrows. Hell no.
But Portia, Pat rambled on. There are 4 of them, 4 cherubs. We don't get introduced to them. 1 for each corner of the raft, north, south, east, and west. Assuming that a raft goes only in one direction, I guess.
Yeah, we're assuming this looks like the, you said Huck Finn raft or the Legend of Zelda raft. That is the square 4 logs lashed together type of raft.
Were the
There's
babies
4
just,
corners.
Were they just on planks? Like, all right, look, I'm asking questions again, and Charlie told me don't ask any questions. Just build a raft.
It was very hard to follow because they asked the ocean cherubs and they said they would help, but then as far as I could tell, they never actually were then like mentioned again or did anything here.
No, I don't think they do. We don't see them ever again.
Okay, great. Yeah.
They come. The babies come over the Sea of Nu, and you. Are you pronouncing it Nu?
Yes, and you.
I could pronounce it Nuh if I wanted to. Just to be a jerk. But they arrive at the Sea of Nuggles. Or Muggles.
Muggles. Which I guess are off the shore of that. And it says that the glass box filled with the jewels Lady Catherine had placed between their little bodies glittered with the sun's reflection. The gemstones had somehow absorbed the sunlight and its energy. So again, it appears that they are some sort of magic device because they're carrying with it a sunbeam. Which is important because the Muggles live in darkness. But there is no mention of why she gave him the gemstones in the first place, or if they are magical, which they appear to be, that they could have protected them for the 8 days where they weren't eating or drinking.
I mean, it was a glass box, so that's how they. But I thought glass reflected the sun's energy, but whatever it does, it absorbs it and sends it back. So
our listener Mike did point out too that she put him in a glass box with a thing. Tied a key around one of their wrists, but he said the key might be unnecessary considering the box is made of glass, and that if you do need to access its contents, you could probably break it pretty easily. I also was just amused. They're drifting onto the shore here, the sandy beach. The lily pad covered raft. It's still covered in lily pads this whole time. Charlie had just done that to disguise it from prying eyes, but they didn't have enough time to throw these giant lily pads off of the raft.
Charlie, I gotta get back to the dinner. I'm not gonna. The lily pad thing is your deal. It's not mine.
Then he picks up his violin again. It glided towards the sandy beach, where it finally came to rest on the southern shore of Aura, home of the Muggles. It's about damn time. The Muggles were teased at during that hilarious introduction, but this is the first mention of them since.
Time to check in, by the way. How closely do you think it's adhering to the Harry Potter world right now?
Oh, I mean, this is an open and shut case for any juror, I would say. I mean, so yeah, you have someone has dead parents. You have orphaned, unnamed boys at this point in time. Other than that,
I don't know. You've got this like sort of secret chambers at the house, the castle, which can kind of look like could be kind of a school of some sort if you really squint.
Well, sure. It's the illustration on the cover is very much meant to reflect that.
Persian rugs, artwork, sort of. There's.
I mean, that one character had a turban in the first book, so I mean, it could have some sort of Asian influence. I don't know. When you start putting in stuttering sea cows, that does the rest of your book your claim a disservice, I would say.
Did the judge have to sit and listen to the whole thing? Like, tell me more about the sea cow. Yeah. I want to hear about this.
This New York accented barracuda. Did J.K. Rowling rip that off? Well, no, she didn't. That was so stupid that of course she didn't rip it off. And are there babbies in the Harry Potter universe? Any babby appearances?
Lawyers like pulling their suits back. Sir, we're checking on that. If you could just can we take a recess while we check for babbies?
We will take a babby break. 15-minute babby break.
I'll allow it, but watch yourself, counselor.
When you come back, you better tell me how is babby formed. Yeah, I don't think that the S has improved her case, but we are here to see the Muggles, and that's what happens in this next chapter. But before we get to that, I think we should probably do the real or fanfic segment that people have been eagerly anticipating this entire time.
Oh, boy.
Fanfic. Real, fanfic, real, fanfic, 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 real, fanfic.
All right, so this is real or fanfic, the beloved segment here on our podcast where Mike is going to try to guess which of these segments are actually from later in the book, from the last 20,000 words of The Legend of Rah and the Muggles, and which is fanfic, submitted by our beloved Jackals, who have taken up the challenge to try to trick you right now. The Jackals are quite busy this time. We got a lot of submissions, and we couldn't use them all.
Sure.
And we're also going back to the segment where I'm going to quiz you on these. I enjoyed the last one. Some people enjoyed hearing more about your process of why you thought these were real and fanfic, and they thought that when we were sort of competing, we cut to the chase more quicker. So we're doing this again. We might go back to head at some point in time, but not for this book.
Gotcha.
Jackals are all gathered, by the way, at patreon.com/372 pages, where you can get all these episodes early. This book sold out pretty quickly, so it behooved you to get on it early. We bought out the whole supply. It's unfortunate, but it is funny that once there's just an algorithm on some of these sellers where once they see these books selling, it's like, well, now this book costs $98. It's like, well, damn it.
You can't surge price the Muggles. Come on.
It'd be interesting to see how quickly it goes back down, but I do believe they have been bought up. And also, we at the beginning of the intro episode, you tried to recap Harry Potter, and we went through and had you recap all of Star Wars on the Patreon.
Yes.
Which people, I don't know.
Apparently
what
there were some errors. I don't know. I thought I was flawless, but whatever.
And evidently I would chime in and actually you, and then say something that was also completely wrong, which, what do you want here?
Yes.
I had a Bib Fortuna doll as a kid, so I've got some authority on the matter.
I think I was pretty authoritative on Jacktono Porkins, and I will hear nothing else about it.
One of my favorite comments was someone who was like, I would just like to point out that in a recap of the Star Wars universe that did not mention Darth Vader, you managed to somehow remember the entire three names of the Porkins character who was on screen for 28 seconds.
Whoops. All right.
All right, but that's at patreon.com/372 pages. These are 5 excerpts. They could all be fanfic, or they could all be real, or a combination of the two. Number 1. The rising sun painted the vegetation and gravel of Pinker Path a beautiful shade of rose. Even Zin's strawberry blonde hair took on a rosy glow. Now we know why they call it Pinker Path, said Rah, his bright eyes shining. But Zin did not answer. He was distracted, and not just by the sound and smell of greeblies scurrying wetly nearby. Zin could see that many of the stones among the gravel of Pinker Path were identical to the special stone Grandma had given him at Lemonade Lake. He clutched his hand around his own stone in his pocket and flushed even pinker than the path as he angrily realized his worry stone was not special or rare. Golda had lied to him, and he would make a plan to teach Golda and all the Muggles a nasty lesson they would not forget.
Ooh, boy. I do want Golda to learn a lesson, but I have my own reasons for that. I wondered whether Pinker Path was like Lemonade Lake being... so then that came up. And then there's like Lemon Trail or something like that.
Sure. They have a lemon
I don't
party.
know. I'll say fanfic just because the Pinker Path thing tried to snare me in. I don't know. Could be.
Number 2. Patter ran through the village, pushing the buggy so fast that not even the Greeblies could have grabbed them. So fast that Rah and Zin's pet Nardles nearly passed out trying to keep up with them. We've got news, Pitter yelled. Yeah, we've got news, Patter repeated. All through the village, Muggles stopped what they were doing and quickly ran after Pitter and Patter. Breathlessly, Patter shoved the buggy the last few feet to Ur and Golda's log home. Muggles came from every direction and gathered in a crowd by the front porch. Patter nearly collapsed, gasping for breath as Golda wrapped her arms around his tiny shoulders. What's all the fuss, children? She asked. Calm down. Tell me what is going on. Holding his hand against his chest and panting as he spoke breathlessly, Patter said, Grandma, oh Grandma, they can talk. Before he could go on, Pitter jumped off the buggy and grabbed Rah. Holding him in her arms, she said, Who am I, baby? Pitter, said Rah.
Wow. Boy, that's a tough one. Pitter and patter, just to remind myself, those are the 13-year-olds who are deeply in love.
12-year-olds who are so deeply in love that they always hold hands. Yes.
They always hold hands, and their hearts beat through their shirts over the love that they have for each other. I would call that's obviously a condition, and it needs immediate treatment.
100%. It is off-putting and concerning.
I mean, statins, calcium channel blockers, whatever we can do to get these two back. I don't know. Coin flip real.
Okay. Number 3. Lemonade Lake is located at the base of a huge pile of boulders. A natural spring juts out from an opening and falls into the lake. Golda bent down next to the lake and dipped her cupped hand into the cold water and took a drink. Zin, take a drink from the lake, she said invitingly. Zin knelt down right beside Golda and dipped his cupped hands into the water and then lifted them to his mouth. Hey, this water tastes like lemonade, he said with great surprise. Now you know why they call it Lemonade Lake, Golda replied. Why, that is the strangest thing I learned about today, Zin told her.
Oh, boy. Crap. That sounds so stupid that it could be real.
There you go. Put that quote on the book jacket.
No, now I'm in a dilemma. I've already decided that the earlier one was real.
No, you said the earlier one. Well, which one?
Well,
you said
the
first
second one was real, didn't
Got
it?
it, yes. Yes.
Can I switch my answer?
Of course.
Second one fanfic, this one real.
Okay. Number 4. Brothers Rah and Zin, just 6 years old, set out one day out into the cold. They played on the ice and stomped in the snow. They had so much fun till the wind began to blow. They were about to go in out of the chilled air, but then they saw an old white hare. He twitched his nose and raised his paw, then off the hare ran, away from Zin and Rah. The twins cried out, "Let's follow that hare." The chase was on. They ran without care. They ran for hours, boys after hare. They gave the chase their all, till they fell in a snare.
Wow.
Now we have had a poem, and we later have a lullaby. So
Sub Dr. Seuss. I don't know. I got to say fanfic.
okay, sub Dr. Seuss. Number 5. Rah woke up to Muggles shouting and screaming. He rushed to the window and saw Greeblies everywhere. Greeblies were running up and down the paths, going in and out of doors and windows, and chasing the Muggles around. I have to help, he said to himself, and opened the cabinet to grab his broom. Instead, a horde of Greeblies rushed out. They had eaten everything. Rah tossed the little pests off him and ran outside. He grabbed Pitter and Patter and many other Muggles who had been surrounded by the Greeblies and headed for the safety of the turnip cellar. He had to kick the beasts out aside as he pushed open the cellar door, but yet another horde of Greeblies rushed out. There are too many Greeblies, Bluster shouted as the furry horde descended on him. Rah pulled him to safety too. He was carrying many Muggles on his strong shoulders. At this moment, a huge roaring squeak filled the air, and the ground shook from heavy footsteps. The giant Greebly Queen stomped over the hilltop. It was 50 feet tall.
Whoa! 50 feet? I can't do math really quick, but that's way bigger than 3 feet, which is the average height of a Muggle. I mean, I would love it if it's real, but I have to say fanfic.
Okay. All right. Let's see. You did pretty well. You talked yourself out of one of them. Number one was special stones and the smell of Greeblies scurrying wetly, which is one of my favorite sentences we've ever had on fanfic. And this one was fanfic. You said fanfic. It was written by Catherine.
Nice.
It's just such a visceral image. It's something scurrying wetly.
Sure.
Number 2 was Pitter and Patter coming up with the babies and saying that they are able to talk. You said real, then changed it to fanfic. It was real, unfortunately.
Wow.
Submitted by Chap.
It was so close.
Number 3, is Lemonade Lake tastes like lemonade. Now you know why they call it Lemonade Lake. You said that was so stupid that it might be real. And you were correct. That is real from later in the book.
Wow.
So it's hard to piece this together because some of these characters we've had and some of them we haven't, and we haven't had Zin and Rah. I think they're the two. I think they're the two twins.
Yeah.
But so Zin, who was born essentially on a raft at sea, tastes this and knows what lemonade tastes like. So we'll see if that makes any sense when we actually get to it. Number 4 was the Tolkien-esque song of Rah and Zin chasing after a hare.
Mm-hmm.
You said fanfic for that. That was fanfic written by Craig.
Right. It was good.
It was good, but I feel like it was too good in terms of that. It actually had a discernible rhyme scheme.
Kind of, yeah. Okay.
So you're 1, 2. You're 3 for 4 so far, and the only one you got wrong, you switched. Number 5 was the giant Greebly Queen. You said fanfic for that, and that was fanfic written by Jork.
That's
so
nice.
4 for 5.
Nice. Okay.
Strong out of the gate. Strong.
God, it could have gone 5 for 5. Oh, well.
All right, let's get to the Muggles.
Okay. Chapter 3, The Arrival.
Yes.
They've been watching in awe. This is my first note. The Muggles had lived in near darkness beneath a moon covered by a purple haze, as you recall. They had never seen sunlight or felt its warmth and had no idea if this light was good or bad, happy or sad. However, they were huge fans of Johann Pachelbel. But yes, these diamonds are lighting up. At first I was like, what is that? How light is it?
Yeah. What I was imagining is, in a cartoon when, heaven shines down a light and it's that beam, and that's it's like something that would follow Ned Flanders around, like that's just following the raft with them now.
Okay.
But so they've never had this, and they had no idea if it was good or bad, happy or sad. I would feel like if something like that started approaching a culture that had never seen light for 500 years, you'd probably be terrified of it and think it was bad and a sign that you're about to die.
Yeah, many were horrified and frightened, which, given the war that happened, I think that's it's good to be, lead with that and see what happens after.
Yeah. But they are terrified. So a few sought refuge in huge groundhog holes, which I thought was just like the Greebly scurrying wetly is close to a perfect sentence.
My question about that, are the holes big, or are the groundhogs also that big? And I think we get an answer to that later, but I just didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, if the 3.5 foot tall Muggles are hiding into them, it could be a combination of both of them. They're definitely huge holes. It goes on. It mentions their blue skin. It felt like the warmth of a burning fire against their cold skin. Not certain if that's meant to be a good or bad thing as well. Mm-hmm. And also these Muggles have lived in darkness, Alaska in the middle of the winter, the sun never comes out. Are they like naked mole rats?
Yeah,
those gross, like just like are they blinded immediately by the faintest light?
Yeah, they're like those cave fish, with no pigmentation.
Yeah.
They just like swim around in utter darkness.
They're blistering from sunburns because they've never had to worry about that. They have no hair, so their scalps are breaking out in these horrible burns.
Yeah, what was what's the mutant guy in the what's the 80s movie, the Spielberg, the Goonies?
Oh, Sloth, sure.
Isn't he kind of a mutant character? Is that what you're picturing?
Yeah, and he's got a sort of one eye that's permanently sort of like closed shut. So that's probably what these guys are going to look like after 5 minutes in the sun.
Yeah.
You do get a note about the groundhogs here.
Okay.
And some of the other fauna that's around the Muggles town. Large, friendly-looking groundhogs with long, fluffy hair, each with a mouthful of buck teeth, squeezed out of their holes side by side with Muggles who had borrowed their homes for hiding places. So groundhogs with long hair is an off-putting image.
It is very off-putting, as well as this. Rabbits the size of large dogs hopped like kangaroos. I had a friend who had Russian wolfhounds.
Okay.
She had 2 of them. That's how large I imagine these rabbits are.
Yeah.
Very big. They're like, small horses. Just gigantic.
I mean,
that is terrifying to me. That is not like, how cute. That's a good God. That is
Night of the Lepus,
monstrous.
essentially, is happening. A nightmare.
Yeah.
There's also giant bees, and then there are peacocks. No word about whether they are enlarged from the radiation, but they are appearing with Muggles seating on their back, so they're using them as
riding them like ostriches, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
She does say this. I again, you hate to call it out because I think it's a typo. Giant bees jutted from place to place. I think she means like jetted from place to
sure,
place.
yes.
I don't think they just jutted from place to place, but we'll let that go.
I think there's one of the illustrations is a Muggle on the back of an ant. So I think if the solution is, if the question is how big are these things, I think the answer is also the insects and mammals are also bigger than normal, presumably because of radioactive mutations.
I'm going to give you a sonic challenge before you give it to me.
Ooh.
This would be the
head
oldest
Muggle on Ara, sure.
The oldest Muggle.
The elder Muggle, yeah.
Yeah. I just want you to set the tone for how the Muggles sound.
Okay.
And so I'll just read it flatly, and then you can do it after that.
His first sentence?
Yeah, do you have it there? What in?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll just read it. What in tarnation do you suppose? What do you suppose is going on here, Golda?
God, I hate the Muggles. They're
Yeah.
the worst. I'm speed the cruise ship up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, give me that suntan lotion. Oh my God, that's
Ready
awful.
the cannons.
I'm glad
What
the purple crowd is.
tarnation?
Wow.
You have to imagine they have some sort of horrible voice like that, like an 80s little cherub coming from there. My sister used to watch a movie called The Hug-a-Bunch, and I'm imagining them sort of like those vile creatures.
Oh, I don't know, but like a voice, like a cartoon, right?
Yeah, just something that, like, the director probably would have thought this character might talk like it. It immediately is off-putting and creepy. We've done movies with kids characters like that before.
What in tarnation?
And the 2 kids are like, we know nothing, so this sounds normal to us.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Our mother's gentle, stately French now sounds like the horrible language to us. But not only do they sound bad, they're also pretty grim to look at. It talks about Golda, Yur's wife. Golda's like an arthritic old codger. He's 96, hard of hearing. His legs are bowed from arthritis. And Golda, his wife, is slightly overweight with a plump belly, but with short, round legs that are very agile.
Short, round legs. I thought they had long, smooth. All right.
Yeah.
Not going to get into it. Would you hurry yourself, Goldie? If you want to come with me, then let's get it moving, he scolded her as he shuffled down and through the tropical growth, using his cane to cut a path for both of them. He shuffled, but it says earlier that he could move really quickly if he wanted to.
Right. Can you
So you
shuffle
see this gross
agilely?
guy coming at you like, what in tarnation are you? Oh, God. I hate the Muggles.
What is he doing with his cane?
He's making a path through the tropical growth.
Because it did emphasize, it said there was redwood trees, but they were leafless, and there was other plants that all like bloomed and flowered all of a sudden. So not only is the light probably causing problems for these people, they're probably like immediate allergies they didn't realize they had. Their throats are closing up because all this pollen that was dormant for 500 years is coming out. Many problems these twins are bringing to their shore, as you tend to do when you show up on the shores of a place that have not had others there for 500 years.
Also, this comes up again, but she says it's the sun, I think, is the light coming from the dime, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then he says, did you say the S-U-N?
Yeah.
Yes, dear, that's what I said. And she's screaming at him, I guess, because it's all caps.
Yes.
His nearly deaf ear. She's screaming it. So she says the sun, and he says the S-U-N. And I'm like, well, that's the last I want to hear of whatever the hell that is. Like, nope. Unfortunately, that sticks with us for quite some time.
Yeah, the
So
narrator.
if you thought you
doesn't feel the
hated
need
Muggles
to-
before, like, you hate them even more now.
Yeah, I mean, any guesses at what that could possibly stand for as an acronym?
I thought he was just trying to spell it because she said the sun, and unlike S-O-N, that's what I thought. So I'm like, is that supposed to be a joke or something? I don't know what that is.
They are Princess Catherine's sons. I don't know. I'm guessing the U stands for unobtainium. That's probably what they're...
Okay.
I was just relieved because she says, have a little patience, I'm coming as fast as I can. Just hold on to your suspenders. And I was relieved just to learn that they were wearing clothes. Because if the Muggles were running around nude, I don't think I could really take any much more of this. It's already so off-putting.
Well, wait a minute, though. I have a question about that.
Okay.
Maybe this is jumping ahead if you have notes after, but this is where I was confused. I'm not just going to stand here and wait until something happens to my parents, Harmon shouted to the others.
In his first appearance. That's his introduction to us.
Anyone coming with me? He headed toward the beach with the other Muggles trailing right behind him, some of them pulling their shirts over their heads and a hat down over their eyes. So, were they shirtless, or are they now getting shirtless? Or like pulling their, what is pulling their shirts?
Yeah, because you could interpret that either way. Like, I didn't think about it for too long.
Are they getting shirtless and pulling their shirts up and over their heads?
I think
Or
it's
are
pulling it
they
up to,
pulling
like,
them
protect
over
them.
their heads?
Yeah, maybe they're trying to be like one of those guys where you paint the face on your belly and put on a big hat and then you dance around. Maybe that's how they approach this new arrival.
Or they were doing like high school football practices and like, all right, shirts and skins, ladies, let's line up. If I'm a lady, should I be taking my shirt off? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Harmon's motives are unclear to us as we've just met him as he started issuing this order. But
Harmon.
But Harmon comes down and he asks his father, what do you need help with? He says, the first thing we got to do is get the SUN up to the Tower of Time, he said with a definite command. So here we go. This is where the things start getting thrown at us in this fantasy world. The Tower of Time, a giant pyramid-shaped stone formation with a circular stone disc with a half-triangle stone mounted in its center, resting delicately on its tip, and the circular stone slowly turns counterclockwise during the day, casting moon shadows on the side of Mirror Mountain. So she wasted no time in what she assumed, I guess, was world-building lore here.
Yes. I would like to point out in Harmon's introduction, what is the book? Eats, shoots, and leaves, right?
Uh-huh.
The comma thing is very confusing here. Is this
Yeah.
3 people? Okay, just as Harmon, comma, Golda, comma, and yours eldest son reach the bottom of the hill, 3 people are going down the... His parents emerge from the light.
Yeah.
Wait, whose parents? You just named 3 people.
Someone submitted that as a dumb sentence, and that is really hard to parse if you're not looking at it as a listener right now. It does make you... It is describing Harmon as Golda and your eldest son, but throws an unnecessary comment in there. It's something that could be a parenthetical. And he's already been described as that, so it was completely unnecessary.
So strange. I was very confused. The fact that it made me go back enraged me.
Yeah, usually the Oxford comma does help you to differentiate in those situations. This one makes it even more confusing.
Well, they should have removed the one after Golda and put it after eldest son.
Yes.
Right? Then,
yes,
yeah,
100%.
Anyway, all right.
So they're taking the sun up to the time tower. They're like, I guess, by moving the box or something that they
Jewel
drag
box?
it up there. Yeah.
I guess.
The path they take is down Pinker Path to Rip Rap Road until it reached the base of Mirror Mountain. So Stouffer's attorney here is sort of like, hey, J.K. Rowling also does a lot of bullshit alliteration here, Your Honor. And you'll find a lot of it in my client's book as well.
Did you? I looked this up because Pinker Path, Rip Rap Road, Mirror Mountain, Tower of Time, millions of tiny mirror-like marcassette rock formations.
Okay.
Any clue?
Well, only because a listener wrote in about a geologist wrote into us about marcassette.
What is that?
Do you want to hear what he had to say?
Yeah, I looked it up, but it was like it's a cloth of some kind.
This is Rick who wrote in and said he was amused to see this, and he says, this was confusing. I assume they didn't mean the rocks were shaped like thin fabric, and maybe they meant marcasite? If so, marcasite also readily dulls when exposed to the elements, so shiny crystals of it wouldn't be exposed atop a mountain anyway. Assuming that there is oxygen in the land of the Muggles, babies can survive without food or days in this universe, so maybe they breathe on something else.
Okay, so it's supposed to be something else. I was like, wait, it's like a thin fabric marcasite? Which I've never heard of in my life, but I looked it up. And
okay.
It's like, so why does it glitter? What is it supposed to be?
I just closed it.
Oh, sorry.
Marcasite?
Marcasite.
Yeah.
God.
Which is, Marcasite.
So she knows about it as much about rocks as she does about music, I guess.
To take a swing like that, though, and to get it completely wrong on multiple fronts is pretty impressive.
That is.
Because we've just established it's fantasy. You've had us walking down Rip Rap Road to get to Mirror Mountain. It can be, Splugen Rock or whatever. Yes. Like, it's brother. What pure rock? That was in a movie we did recently. Like, it doesn't make it up.
They used the pure rock. It was Charlton Heston.
And we get this whole thing. They've dragged the SUN up to the top of Mirror Mountain, but then Stubby, a 5-year-old Muggle boy who asks questions about everything he sees, which is just great development. If there's any authors out there, that's Tolstoy could have learned a lot from developing a character like that. I hope Stubby comes up again. He says, how did they get there? Because he has just noticed the Muggles were so fascinated with the sunrise, they hadn't noticed the tiny raft and its 2 tiny passengers. And I have no idea how that's possible, that they dragged the sunlight with them, presumably by the box that attracts it, without noticing the raft and the passengers. Maybe just because Charlie hit it so well with giant lily pads. I guess that's what happened.
That would be like you unload, a ship comes up, like, wow, we've never seen a ship before, and we unload its cargo hold and bring up all the gold and then go, now, what was that on? We just unloaded. Like, what? How do you not understand that you took it from a raft? I don't get that baffled me. I had no idea what she was talking about.
I suppose it could be like if you hadn't had water in 5 days and someone presented to you with them, you would then look up and see their face and like not even know who had brought you the water because you were so happy to see it. Too much credit, I think, to assign this to the author.
It did come up again, by the way. I think I brought this up on a previous episode. The Moon Shadows and Cat Stevens.
I put a note for you, yes.
Did I? I think I brought that up.
I don't remember the story. I just know that you're a huge fan, so I thought it would be.
Not a fan, but there was a person who was one of my a friend of mine. Oh. His girlfriend hated me, and I did not like her much. It was really like Seinfeld and Newman. It was just like she would go, "Oh, you're here. Hi, Mike." I'd be like, "Hi, Lisa." And then she was always cleaning their apartment and listening to Cat Stevens. So that was it's like, I am being followed by a moon. And he would open the door like, I'm home. And she'd be like, oh, you're home. Hi, sweetie. Oh, you're here. So that was my associate. I don't like Cat Stevens anyway, but that association makes it so much. So seeing Moon Shadows, I was immediately like,
I'm glad you took the loathing and bitterness that is the message of his song Peace Train to heart to welcome you into their house. A friend of mine in college claimed that Moon Shadow has the greatest bridge in pop music history.
Oh, I like when
people
make bold
Didn't
claims.
take long to find me. But Cat Stevens can be debated by people in the comments. I want to get to one of my favorite sentences in the podcast history. We touched on it, but to present it to you here it's very special. They've discovered the babies, and this is the sentence. Did you hear that? Said Pitter to Patter, a 12-year-old little girl and boy who love each other so very much that they never stop holding hands.
Wow.
So, a lot of questions, first of all,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it does later call them a couple. So they are a 12-year-old couple. They love each other. And, you have a deep, abiding love for Bridget.
Sure.
Me and Lauren, too.
Yeah.
Imagine you've been holding hands for 4 hours, though. Like, maybe...
Yeah, gross.
Get a little sick of that. That's, I think it's not necessarily something you want to never stop doing with someone. Who knows, with their own little ecosystem going on in there, like little mold and life forms.
Yeah, it reminded me of, there was a boy and girl in my probably like 4th grade class who just decided that they loved each other. And so they would say it and they would hold hands. Not to the pitter and patter extent. I mean, please.
Yeah.
But during recess, then they would go up to the teachers and go like, "We're in love," and then they would like kiss, like peck each other. God. And the teachers would go, and I remember going like, "What in the hell is going on?" Like, I'm gonna go hit a kid with a bat. Like, what is it? And the teachers would go, I don't think that you should. This is not good. And somehow they got them to not do it anymore. But it was like this performative thing, like, we're in love, and that's what pitter and patter. This is strange. I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, that's you get called in for the parent-teacher conference. Like, what did the little bastard do now? Yeah. Well, he's in love with Sheila. What? Oh God!
All right, I'll talk to him.
I was put in mind of that comic. I don't even know where it airs, but Love Is, about the 2 naked little like Cupid babies who are in some sort of relationship like them.
Yeah. Pitter and patter.
So yeah, they're off-putting to begin with. They're never stopping holding their clammy, gross hands. But then, as you touched on there, they do gain even more abilities that make them no less loathsome.
Yeah. All right. Then they're 12.
I don't have anything else in that chapter.
No, that's it for me too.
Okay. Chapter 4 is called New Life on Aura. And it starts right off with they're moving towards the raft, and Pitter and Patter are the first ones to pick up the babies. It says, until now, they had always been seen holding hands, as touched on. They loved each other so much that you could hear their hearts beating during silent moments and see them thump, thump, thumping through their clothing. But today, the 12-year-old freckled-faced couple held new lives in their arms. So it is, like you said before, the Tex Avery Wolf, watching Red Riding Hood and having the heart leaping through his chest.
Yeah, this is a condition. It is not good. It's not healthy.
Yeah, it's a nuclear mutation, clearly. It's a result of fallout. So
your ribs have obviously become soft and spongy that they can stretch out.
Your heart sounds like a timpani drum, so people are just like, God, I can't be around that guy. It reminds me of my own impending mortality.
And then, you're like, all right, Pitter and Patter, I don't know, they're holding hands, their hearts are coming out, they're freckled-faced couple, like, they look alike, kind of weird. I don't know. Anyway, it creeped me out. I do want to go back. The chapter title, this is the first time I've ever commented, I think, on a chapter title.
Okay.
New Life on Aura?
Oh.
It's not a new planet, right? They just go to... Is it on Aura? Or is it in a different land? Like, you wouldn't go like, hey, Connor moved to France, so he's starting a new life on France.
Yeah, possibly if it was an island, which I don't believe they've emphasized it is.
No, it's on this, they said it's on this Sea of New.
Huh.
Where the purple cloud of death just like hangs forever, but nowhere else.
Yeah, that's baffling.
Anyway, I don't like it. I don't like Pitter and Patter, and I don't like Aura, and I don't like the Sea of New. How do you like that?
Does it change your opinion if you knew that Patter was wearing a pink and white gingham bodice?
Is Patter the boy or the girl?
It must be Pitter must be the boy.
Okay.
A bodice is like either like a Ren Fair or like a like a lingerie type of thing, right?
I think so. Yeah, pushing up the.
Based on my image searches, I was like, all right, I guess that's what she means. I guess it could have been a colonial type of thing, but brother.
Oh yeah, because I had this note. because Patter picked up the other baby and snuggled him behind his loosely fitting overalls bib. A bright yellow hanky that hangs from his right pocket.
God.
So I was thinking of, Tura-lura. Did they wear like overalls? And
Oh, really?
yes, I think they did in the video. But
Or like George of Mice and Men type of thing?
Yeah.
Like,
I just want to remind you, as these two, the freckle-faced lovers whose hearts beat out of their chest, what Muggles look like. Look much like human babies, but none of them have hair. Their shoulders are narrow and delicate. They have round, plump bellies, which make their arms and legs look very thin. They have smooth, soft skin. Their skin is cold and blue from lack of sunlight and oxygen. They have green. So, there you go.
God.
Oh, for the listeners, Connor just held up a picture of them,
Yeah.
which depicts that. Pink cheeks. They look like children. So there you go for the...
And
Yeah.
they're deeply in love, wearing a bodice and overalls.
Yeah. So the freckles, I don't know. Are those like fallout? Is that like purple? Like, is that, damage from the...
Right, because you
From the
associate this with
radioactivity.
sun, kind of. But like,
Yeah.
here, I think this is a picture of this scene we're covering right now.
Oh, okay. There's Connor's holding up a picture.
The raft appears to be just one giant lily
Oh,
pad.
it's just a lily pad. Oh. Huh.
That kid takes things into a new
Yeah,
direction.
that's not what anyone was imagining.
And
And so they have to be severely sunburned after their...
oh, I mean,
It was 9 days before they got towed, right?
yes, she did mention she covered them with a blanket, but like that's not depicted there.
Oh,
either.
there's no blanket depicted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost as if they were hastily added on for this latest edition of the book. We get to meet a few more characters. This is another one that's is not helped by the additional commas in the sentence. But we meet 46-year-old Nona, Ur, and Golda's unmarried daughter.
Okay, 3 people. 46-year-old Nona, your Golda's unmarried daughter. Got it. All right, what are the 3 of them doing?
Well, Nona, the unmarried daughter, is looking at her parents, Ur and Golda, and asking where the babies come from.
Damn it.
And
Fix your commas. It makes a big difference.
it does repeatedly emphasize that Nona has never married. It keeps coming back to that. It also mentioned that Golda was Ur is the elder. Golda, it said, is the only grandmother. So it does seem that there's only one, like, the generations of Muggles, you assume there's this whole society, but there's only one grandmother, which means that there is only one sub-generation that has a child. So that was just another thing of, like, how that would what the family
wow.
tree
Yeah.
looks like here. Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
there are
they-
other... Oh,
They could have died, right?
sure, I suppose. I guess so. But, like, it doesn't bear well for, like, the family tree, though, of, like, if these grandchildren are going to have to be falling in love and always holding hands with each other.
Yeah.
then-
You mentioned the unmarried daughter thing reminded me of, remember in It's a Wonderful Life where he's like rallying everyone in the savings and loan, and he's like, "Oh yeah, John, remember when things were tough and you couldn't pay your rent for a few months? Remember that?" It's like, hey man,
Yeah, geez, come on.
could you
Hey,
just
like-
kind of? I thought that was.
we
Remember
were
I
gonna
told
keep
you
that
to
from
keep
my
that,
wife.
like the whole. In building a load is standing around like, really? What happened? Like, nah, it's nothing. Like,
You remember when you took your paycheck to the track and you bet it all on that quinella, and then whatever you had left, you took and drank it down over at Martini's, John? You remember? You said it was your son's first birthday. Remember? That's why you bet on that horse that had no chance.
remember what you called from the whorehouse and you it was your last, and then you passed out, and then I came and I revived you. Do you remember that? And I paid off the hooker that you'd killed. And all right, look, please.
You remember when we took a dump on Potter's staircase? That doesn't have anything to do with what I'm doing here now in the bank, but
Anyway, if you could take $20. Anyway, it's just pulling out the fact that she's unmarried. Yeah, I mean, you don't
her
need to-
defining characteristic. Another defining characteristic, this is Golda, and this is a slap in the face to every listener of the podcast, I would say, because it's so close yet so far. Golda responded as she ran her short, stubby fingers through the thick golden hair of one of the very large babies.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Oh, how dare you. If Muggles had long fingers, I think they might be the most freakish creatures known to mankind. But oh well. It makes sense in the context.
Wow.
This was also a pretty great sentence with everything that we've covered on the podcast so far. The babies were very frail, and the Muggles didn't know what to do with them. Life on Aura had been simple and uncomplicated until the babies arrived. They lived in eternal darkness in the specter of nuclear holocaust. I mean, maybe, but it seems a pretty grim, depressing place. There were huge groundhogs that could possibly, carry off their babies. Maybe that's why there's only one grandchild.
Plus, they were inbred dogs were our hips don't work. We're getting shorter because of the.
Right.
We're becoming so inbred.
Yeah.
My God,
English
I can barely see.
Yeah, we're arthritic yet spry in our brief lifespans.
Our organs are all foreshortened. Oh God.
They decide that they're going to house them, and it says Ur couldn't hear what the Muggles were saying as they busily gathered supplies and began building a treehouse next to his home. Nona had always dreamed of building a treehouse, and she remains unmarried. You say that was her lifelong dream, but wow, sounds like a catch.
This is when we get introduced to the Greeblies.
Ooh, they scurry wetly, I believe.
I believe so. I'll just describe Greeblies to you because everyone deserves to have Greeblies described. Greeblies are fat, rat-like rodents. So I'm already thinking of
Rouses.
Of what?
Rodents of unusual size.
Oh no, I was thinking of the what are the giant rats that live in water?
Yeah. Nutria. Capybaras.
Capybara.
Yeah.
Nutrias are like a tenth of the size of capybara. Capybaras are the big, cute ones that they live in water.
The chillest animals.
Yeah, they live in Sticky Icky Swamp, the Sticky Icky, and often hide beneath boulders. They're nocturnal. Faces that resemble rabbits. Well, they are rodents.
Sure.
And the large round ears curl slightly forward at the top. An odd.
Very odd detail to throw in there.
Their bodies are covered with. Now, I'm in so far. I'm just thinking capybara. Those things are adorable. They make little.
I've gotten to pet
sounds.
one before at our county fair.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Did they do the chirping thing?
They are just awesome. You could feed them. It's like the highlight of the whole experience.
Yeah, and they said they have the little the paws. They can swim. They're so cute when they swim. But here we go. Okay, all right, I'm on board with Greeblies. They sound good. Their bodies are covered with gray, coarse hair with black tips that look like they were dipped in ink. All right, I'm out. Gross.
Right, they're not set up to be a good thing. They're called the darn Greeblies, and those blasted Greeblies and varmints, little buggers.
They snatch everything of interest.
What does it say? It says most often their goal is to steal food or raid the garbage. So maybe that's why they're so wet. They have garbage water coating them all the time. They also are known to grab hold of Muggles' legs and drag them frantically for yards and yards.
Jeez. Your pants are going down. Stop dragging me.
Yeah, they're trying to drag you into a huge groundhog hole. I don't know. They can also jump 5 feet into the air from a sitting position, like an armadillo kind of. And they can snatch things. They have prehensile tails.
Yeah, your fur looks like it was dipped in ink. That's right. I'm jumping on you.
We're the Greeblies. I don't know. I don't think there are drawings of Greeblies in the book, unfortunately, but fan art would like to be appreciated. Fan art, too, of the Nardles we would love to see. Nardles are sand dogs.
Yes.
And they would the only two things frighten Greeblies. Sand dogs called Nardles, and getting caught in a trap set by the Muggles, who would more likely use them as dinner for their pet Nardles. So those sort of sound like the same fear to me. It's basically Nardles and being eaten by Nardles.
Well, I mean, if you're caught in the trap, then the Muggles come up. I don't know how they slit your throat. before they feed you to their nardles.
Huge hammer. Just...
Yeah, they whack it. But anyway, they butcher them up. I assume they throw the chunks out to the nardles.
Yeah.
So if I were a Greebly, I'd be like, I thought this was going to be a cute adventure grabbing a muggle, but there's a knife in my skull.
And Greeblies are difficult to see, but the Nardles can smell them a mile away. So we'll see how that pays off. Unfortunately, the Greebly Queen is not actually going to rear her 50-foot head in the rest of the book.
Nardles have long, soft, silky, long beige hair. I don't know that I like any of the creatures they're describing here.
Yeah, they're also the size of lions.
But, I mean, when they say the size of lions, are they talking like our Earth lions now? You know what I mean? Because their rabbits are the size of dogs.
Yep.
And dogs, as we know, vary from teacups to...
Large dogs, though, yeah.
Large dogs, right.
Yeah, and the groundhogs are huger, or much bigger.
Yeah, so are lions bigger? Or maybe lions are small? They're the size of lions. All right, well, how big are lions? Can you just give us a measuring tape here? And
Right. They might have them. They do have condors, because the condors come and build the babies a nest up in the treehouse.
Right.
So condors are large birds. Did they get any bigger? Who's to say?
They put them in this is a question, by the way. The babies have been talked. Giant bird nest built by condors. Do the condors keep their nests clean, like, bald eagles, or is it just pure feces in there?
Yeah.
Like where it's just crusted with, like you can't even see where the nest was built. It's just nothing but feces.
That's a good question. They do eat like carrion, don't they? So
I think so. And then do they regurgitate?
Oh wow, yeah.
So
that's
like
what
the babies. So the condors come in and they're like,
a condor regurgitating probably does sound a lot like babby.
That's true.
Maybe that's how they get the name.
But they go to Lemonade Lake. Oh wait. I'm sorry. I skipped over Bluster.
Oh sure, Golda's nephew.
Yes, son of her youngest sister, Renona. Who's 16 years old.
Okay.
So shouldn't she have latched onto someone and held their hands for 4 years?
Yeah, they got to get busy. They're running out of time. She'll be a Nona before you know it.
A very insecure and boastful teenager. He felt a lot of resentment because his mother died when he was only 7 and his father died 6 months later from a broken heart. Yeah. Didn't we just talk about this on this?
That was part of your Star Wars recap.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's the only one of the things I remember.
You did remember the dumbest parts. I'll give you credit. Yeah, I thought that maybe they had told him, yeah, your father died of a broken heart, Bluster, and not of the shootout down at the brothel where he was found. Like that's he sort of had a broken heart.
Thank you for giving me that cherished memory. All right, drag his body out of that brothel and put it in.
I'm not sure if he's going to become a character later, but based on like the track record of Harry Potter, where people are either good or bad, if you do give us a boastful teenager with a lot of resentment, if anyone's going to sell out the Muggles, it could be Bluster.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I don't have anything else until the Muggle buy.
I just have the up and over the hill they went and down Lemon Lane to the treehouse. I would just love it if Lemon Lane had nothing to do with Lemonade Lake. It's like in my area, there's a Valley View Road.
Okay.
But it goes on, and like it's kind of like Peachtree Road in Atlanta, where it's like, oh my God, there's 500 of them. It's no Valley View, and then you're on Valley View. There's like no valley, there's no view. Like, and then you're off of that. Like, where is Valley? And you try to trace it. It's not one place. It's like 600 different places. Valley View. God.
There's a Lemon Lane Place, Lemon Lane Terrace.
Turn right. When I lived in San Diego, it was Carmel Valley, and our route home was Carmel Place to Carmel Way. Take a right on Carmel Valley Road. Take a left on Carmel Creek Road. And it was just like
I remember
to describe to someone how to get there. You're like, you just punch it in. I can't.
What are you doing with these? Like, auction off the naming rights. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll see once we get to Lemonade Lake, which does taste like lemonade. We'll see if lemonade is what takes you there. But Golda is going to sing these children a Muggle bye. It had been sung to many generations of Muggles, but this evening it seemed to have an extra special meaning to everyone. And I think it's going to have an extra special meaning to everyone listening to this by the end of this podcast, because there's a lot to unpack with the Muggle bye, which we get the full lyrics to. And upon the end of it, it says, "See music score for Muggle bye inside back cover," which was a very weird way to phrase that. I thought it was like, take off the book jacket and it's hidden there, and I couldn't find it. And she just meant it's like towards the end of the book.
Yes.
Inside back cover. But I sent you the sheet music and you did some analysis.
I did. I have so much to say about this. It is okay. How to describe it? I sat down. I don't. It's like I could not. The melody. I'm not very good at like seeing a melody and doing it in my head. Some people are. Where you can just like I can just sing that. I have perfect pitch or whatever. I'm not. I have to get the starting tone and then I can usually kind of pick it up. This one I was just like, what the hell is this? And once I started playing it, I realized it is like a little kid sat down and just started going, have you ever seen a kid like, oh, why don't you spend time, Johnny? We're going to be here for 10 minutes. You make up a song about horses. Okay. Once there was a horse and it ran around and then it came and it was a horse and it did this stuff. And then that's what this song is like. It's like unbelievably tuneless, horrible rambling. But written out, like someone like, oh, okay, well, I'll take this seriously because it's written out. And then you start to play it, you're like, what in the world is this?
I looked at it and I was like, oh, this looks like something I could play on the piano because I could work it out. I wouldn't be able to do it right off the bat, but it's just one note at a time. You pointed out that it does not abide by many of the most basic rules of music notation.
It does not. It does not. So like, all right, maybe she's doing something crazy and I don't get it. But it's like, she has no idea what she's doing. All I can say about the melody is, I don't know, I think it's come up on this podcast before. The Shags was a group of teenage girls, I believe, like a family band that a dad like forced to play music, and none of them had talent, but they became sort of an underground hit because they're so bad they're good kind of a thing.
Right.
That's all I could think of when listening to this was like the off-time drum beat and the like weird trying to keep up with the pauses and then the melody just kind of going around. Like it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, you noted. We could post your whole breakdown of it too, because it will be interesting for music lovers. But listener Jay noted many of the same things in your breakdown. Yeah. Like there's rests that are inappropriate or too long. There are notes tied together that are impossible to play as written. There's wrong chords notated too. So Jay went through and recorded like 5 or 6 different versions of this. Other listeners did too. So he did a instrumental version, a Casio keyboard, a country music version. And once you've heard the song, it's very hard to. It does stay with you for these versions at least. But it's like da na 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 na.
Is your guy drift away through the night till you see the morning light? But it's so bad. But he points out the tie-ins. What did I immediately make a reference to? Beethoven,
of course.
Grosse Fuge, where he does that. He ties something that is when you have a specific length of a note and then you tie it to the same note. That just means you're at the end of a measure, so you want it to go into the next. So just for ease of reading and everything, you tie it to the next note to say, I want it to go into the next measure, instead of having someone have to work it out in their head. Plus, there's rules to how many beats. Anyway, she does this, but then she adds lyrics to it, but it's a tie-in. So it's like, wait. So it is like, it's the puzzle like Beethoven's Grosse Fuge, where he ties these things, and quartets are like, I don't know whether to play the note or not play the note. So maybe that's her sly reference. Like, I think the careful listener will know I'm trying to be like Beethoven here.
Yeah. I sowed the seed with my mention of that obscure work, Pachelbel's Canon in D, so I think they'll be primed to pick up the similarities to Beethoven's Fugue. Yeah, you pointed out that it's specifically said 4/4 time, but then there's measures that have like 9 beats in them as well, 9 notes in them. It's incredible stuff. But yeah, the listeners, the Jackals have started a SoundCloud tag for Muggle By, which includes one like 16-hour ambient work by an artist named Muggle who put a song named By up. It's completely unrelated, but we will link to that. And I think I sent you one of the things. Maybe we'll play it at the end of the episode.
Yes, I think we should play it if we have permission.
Countrified version of this sounds like. Yeah. So if you have any musical talent or don't, go on there and try to either submit your own or remix some of these, because it's catchy is the wrong word, but it will stay with you once you've heard it actually performed.
I will point out that I was trying to figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out how to record, but was it Jay who did the recordings?
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. I had the identical thing, but I couldn't get my piano to record. Anyway, so I picked up my guitar and did like what he did. It's like, is there a way I could make it maybe work? So I was kind of doing a doom dicka doom dicka doom, and I could kind of cram in the melody there, but I couldn't record it. But but then it's not a lullaby. It's supposed to be a lullaby, right?
That's
Muggle
another
by
point too. Yeah.
So it does not make any sense as a lullaby. So thank you, Jay, for doing this and proving to me again that I was like, I'm not crazy, right? This is nuts.
Yeah. The other important thing is that she's in theory trademarked the term Muggle by. So that's it's right there. Or actually, I'm sorry, she has trademarked the term Muggles by with a dash in it, even though there is it is just a Muggle by in the book as written. So but it's out there. You need a trademark. Muggle by is still available.
But imagine if you're the child and you're like, I can't sleep, Mommy. Well, hang on. I've got a little something for you. And then start singing. Just listen. We'll go out with Jay's song and just listen to it, and then try to, like, you're the kid going like, what the hell is going on? La 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 la. Mom, what time signature is it? Shh, sleep now. You just jumped an octave and then came back down in a very strange way. Sleep, my child.
Well, it's a gift that she decided to give us that music, I would say that.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's truly one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Her rhythm is so bizarre and bad that I can't even describe it. So, anyway.
Well, after the Muggle by, Yer looks at Golda and says, well, Mother, do you think it's time we put these old bones to bed? And that was the last sentence in this that amused me.
And she took her short, stubby fingers and went at him, and he took his arthritic legs and went, let's get to it, baby.
And yet they still don't love each other as much as the 12-year-olds.
No, not even close.
All right, that's the end of the first 4 chapters. We can close it out with our listeners' dumb sentences.
Dum 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 dum, dumb sentence of the week.
All right, these are the dumb sentences of the week submitted by our beloved, kind, not looking at all like Muggles, Patreon Jackals. They're much more beautiful than actual Muggles. The first one comes from Valentari and Gunther, who both submitted the list of trademarks from the beginning of the book, which includes Muggle Dome, Muggleplication, Greeblies. Greeblies is trademarked, as is Nady and Nettie Spooners of the Deep, trademarked. You also find, this came up in the fan fiction, but the names Rah and Zin, which I believe are what the kids are going to be named, Zin, Z-Y-N, trademarked. Zin is the most popular brand of, do you know what it is? Most popular brand of, you can buy them, non-tobacco having nicotine pouches.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so a major available in every convenience store product is called that. So I don't know if she negotiated something with that trademark, or maybe it was never expired or whatever. But anyway.
Are trademarks hard to get?
I don't know.
How do you? Can you trademark? I didn't think you could trademark. I mean, Muggles, Muggles by Rah, Muggles, Muggledom, Muggleplication, Shadow Monsters, Neville's, Nardles. Does each one cost something?
You would think it would have to, and it probably was a lot harder to do in 1987 or whenever.
Trademarks 1984, 1987, 2001 by N.K. Stouffer.
Right. One is when she purportedly wrote the book, and the other one is when this reissued copy came out to capitalize on the movie. I don't know.
I'm assuming that the Stouffer, the stuffing company,
Frozen food,
sued the living hell out of her
for her existing. Yeah, I don't know, but Greeblies sounds like it. You remove a few vowels from there, and you've got a popular brand of Amazon clothing or something that you can only buy. This one came from Jacob. If that makes me wicked, so be it, she said with a poor attempt at a Shakespearean delivery, and they both laughed. Loki, Khan, and Harris all submitted. The Muggles never had any indication that there could be, or should be, any life beyond the shoreline of Aura to the south, Mirror Mountain to the north, Lemonade Lake and Fuzzy Forest to the east, and Volcano Deru and the Pool of Pyro to the west.
Yes. I had noted that as like, how stupid are they? You have no indication? You think that here there be dragons? Like you just fall off that's it. There's turtles down there. What are we supposed to do?
Sure. To their credit, nuclear holocaust has happened. So,
it was a pretty bad war.
We do need a map. Someone did a map of Antigua, I believe. But so we can get one. The major misstep, not including one in the book, but we need the Pool of Pyro. I need to know where that is in relation to Lemonade Lake. Mike submitted, no Muggle from any village on Aura knew what to think or how to feel. So I guess there's multiple villages on Aura too. Nathan submitted, this is just imagine 5 years ago, I told you we'd be reading books that have these sentences in them. Buddy the Barracuda swam up besides the stressed sea cow. Jan submitted, the need for power and control seemed to spread through the Congress of United People, COUP, like a disease out of control. And he broke it down, the sentence becomes, the need for control spread like a disease out of control. Claire submitted, did you hear that? Said pitter to patter, a 12-year-old little girl and boy who love each other so much they never stop holding hands. Balaji submitted, Charlie shocked everyone when he picked up a violin and led the two women in an impromptu rendition of Pachelbel Canon D. But maybe, if he's listening, Bob Fingerman could draw pitter and patter. These creatures might lend himself to their Bob's signature style. I don't know.
Oh, that would be great.
Jackson submitted, despair painted their tiny faces like a mask of terror. Beth submitted, she took her delicate fingers and tucked the plentiful fabric beneath the boys' tiny bodies until they were snug. And Beth said she took her delicate fingers. Are they removable? Again, we've seen there's multiple pictures of the boys on their huge lily pad, and so it looks nothing like what is actually described in the text. There's no blankets or anything. Mm-hmm. Jeremy submitted, no one seemed to notice that Walter's electrifying eyes were mesmerizing Lady Catherine. Well, we touched on this. He mesmerizes every guest that comes, right?
Everyone,
it seems like negligent. Unless you're mesmerized, you might not notice other people being mesmerized. Jeff submitted, the Tower of Time is a giant pyramid-shaped stone formation. He said, I guess it would be too easy to say the Tower of Time is a giant pyramid of stone. Brian submitted, in the year of the purple haze, people had forgotten the power of love and sought power in place of love. He says it's definitely referencing Jimi Hendrix, but it's probably unintentionally referencing Huey Lewis and the News.
I was thinking the same. Thank you for bringing him in.
Heather submitted, just as Harmon, Golda, and Yur's eldest son reached the bottom of the hill, his parents emerged from the light. She says, I appreciate the author trying to use proper punctuation, but sometimes you can use too many commas. Jeffrey submitted, beaten, tired, and nearly starving, they deserted the ruins, leaving behind the imprisoned have-nots, the injured, the disabled, the ethnically impure, the elderly, and the other less fortunate human beings. And he says, when your children's book contains the term ethnically impure within the first 3 pages. You know you're in it up to your neck. Mike, this is the moon tower, I think. The tower juts towards the sky. And Mike said that is the exact definition of what a tower is. Catherine submitted she was dressed in a twilight blue silk gown beneath a floor-length robe painted with blooming pink roses and white-flowered dogwood branches, belted loosely at the waist with braided gold ropes. And Catherine said, I feel like the sentence should have stopped at she was dressed in a twilight blue silk gown because we could have then pictured the Princess Bride or similar. So that's the second time that's come up. The RRUSs are Greeblies, and she's dressed like Princess Buttercup. Amanda submitted the sound of crying babies painted a smile across Walter's handsome face. And her son Jay, who I think is 9, maybe 10 by this point. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. No question about it. Yep, no question about it. He chanted far out of Porcia's sight. So that's the Barracuda saying that, chanting it. Chap and Emily both submitted Nona's purple and yellow flowered house dress hung just above old leather work boots and her ankle socks when she asked Golda, where did these babies come from, Ma? And one of them, I think Chap said, the more I analyze the sentence, the more I wonder if Nona is actually wearing the dress. Maybe the dress hung from a peg or a nearby tree. Remember, she's nude other than the half glasses. But definitely, what we do know, definitely never married.
Never married.
Caitlin submitted, peacocks strutted from behind boulders with muggles seated on their backs. No word on whether these are giant peacocks. The muggles are 3.5 feet tall. Who knows? Hayden and John submitted 46-year-old Nona, you're in Golda's unmarried daughter. We've covered that one. Alejandro submitted, Greeblies are fat rodent-like rodents that live in sticky, icky swamp and often hide beneath boulders. Andrew submitted, some think muggles' voices sound faint, but that is because they are very tiny. I mean, 3.5 feet, you've probably encountered a person who's that short before. Doesn't
Well,
make
I
their
guess
voice
they've never
automatically
asked me
faint?
what in tarnation is happening. So.
Joe submitted, I had somehow forgotten about time and you. And he said, that's a totally normal sentiment and way of speaking English. I don't remember who said that. George submitted, the gilded gold frames around the painted oil portraits were reflective of this family's long and opulent history. And he said, gilded gold frames, did you say? Is that like double gold? Double gold? A layer of gold on top of some more gold? Anyway, Cameron submitted, the closer it came, the warmer the air temperature became. And he said the word temperature seems completely unneeded in this context. And Mark, who submitted this book, he's responsible for all of this, he said, like I need this nosy porpoda busybody asking me so many questions, just makes me want to puke. But he rambled on, and he said, it does not appear to be a word in any known language. Maybe it is Auran, which means it comes from on Aura, obviously.
On Aura, yes.
I had a couple. These are just old-fashioned dumb. This one is the one we didn't talk about, but I asked the ocean cherubs if they could bring their bows and arrows and help you to protect Natty and Nettie's babbies. Just good old-fashioned childlike dumbness.
I don't think I have anything that wasn't covered, frankly.
Okay, yeah, we touched on a lot. But
Yeah.
All right, off to a good start. I hope there are a lot more Greeblies. I hope they scurry wetly. And I guess we figure out who the hell Rah and Zin are and what their legend is.
If you have babbies right now, take care of your babbies. That's what's important.
Hold your babbies tight on their lily pads.
Yes.
And
but we will play you out, right, with the song.
Jay's countrified version of the Muggle Bye.
Oh, the countrified. Can we play the well? No.
Which one do you want?
Well, the countrified one does have the words.
Yes.
The other one has the tune.
Okay. Well,
played directly as it should be played, but the countrified is good.
Countrified is the only one I have the MP3 for. So we will link to the gallery of all of them.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Jay, for all your work.
Bye, everybody.
So long.
Even though there's darkness all around, there is nothing to fear. A friend can be found. And even in the darkest of nights, there's a star that's shining bright. So close your eyes and rest them, my son. This day's at an end, and the night is your guide. Drift away through the night, till you see the morning light. All right. Watch out now. Then look and you will see the world as you want it to be. And then open your heart to the day, till the light becomes a shade. Even though there's darkness all around, there is nothing to fear, a friend can be found. And even in the darkest of nights, there's a star that's shining bright.
Good night, all you Muggles. Sweet dreams out there. Don't let the darkness get you.